Chapter 1057. The second elder sneered and said, "To be honest, this is the first time in my life that I've seen a kid with such a high cultivation. Ha, kid. There's a famous saying in the human race. Heroes come from the young. Such a heroic young man is really rare." The deep ice, which said lightly, "Then I really want to congratulate you. You've seen it now, haven't you? Although it's just a glimpse, it's enough for you to regret your whole life. Well, are you going to thank us?" You. The second elder's eyes were about to crack. Even Zwa Xiaoduo, who had always been under the protection of the great, which deeply admired the shamelessness of the great, which when he saw her acting like this. Zwa Xiaoduo had never thought of himself as a good person. He was often shameless, and often got a lot of benefits because of his shamelessness. He even thought that he was the best of the best. But today, after seeing the heroic appearance of the deep ice witch, he realized that there was always someone better than him. The level of shamelessness could be so outstanding, arrogant, and unparalleled. Zwa Xiaoduo felt that although the main purpose of the shamelessness was to protect him, but shamelessness was shamelessness. There was nothing to quibble about. It was not right. The deep ice, which was the one who had fully carried out the words shameless, unreasonable, crazy accusation, pointing at a deer as a horse, and going against his conscience to the extreme. Well, he has already reached the peak of the senior magus level in this world. With his shamelessness, no matter how much I flatter him, I'm still inferior to him. I must learn more in the future and further my studies. So Xiaoduo thought to himself, but on the other hand, he faintly felt strange. The voice of the deep ice, which, why does it sound vaguely familiar? Where have I heard it? But how could a small shrimp like me have come in contact with such a great existence? It must be an illusion. It must be an illusion. But this is a bit strange, very strange, too strange. The old man who had left him here now came out to protect him. Maybe it was an instinctive protection for the genius of the Wu clan. But why did the two senior magi of the Wu people also protect him? And the deep ice witch's intention, motivation, and willingness were even more determined than the old man's. Wasn't this a big, strange thing? Could it be that I, Zwa Xiaoduo, have become so popular now? It was a bit strange and difficult to understand. How come this world became so confusing to me? It's so confusing. On the other side, the great elder of the demon race finally couldn't restrain his temper. Of course, if he allowed the murderer who killed tens of thousands of his clansmen to be taken away so easily under the gaze of all the demons, what prestige would he have in the future? He was afraid that he would never be able to shake off the title of a spineless leader in this lifetime. Great Ice Abyss, which I know that this child has been set up by your witch tribe for a long time. It's necessary for you to deal with the human race. You definitely won't give him up. You don't have to say anything else. The great elder of the demon clan said blandly, his white beard fluttering in the wind. Okay, but we have to follow the rules of the Jianghu. 2 out of 3 wins. If you win, you can take him away. But if we win, he must stay. This was the only way out. The elders of the demon clan thought that they had seen through Zwa Xiaoduo's background and saw him as a human spy that the sorcerer tribe had painstakingly cultivated. Otherwise, why would they be so aggressive and even fight against him? Now that he was in a situation where he couldn't back down, it was impossible for him to just let them go. There had to be a reason to push the boat with the current and get off the donkey with the slope. Lei Chantian was a bit dumbfounded. The Wu people had planned this for a long time. Well, Zwa Xiaoduo was his grandson, the only son of Elder Zwa. How could he be a Wu people spy? Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Zwa Xiaoduo was also dumbfounded. He was an elite of the human clan, the number 1 person on the human clan's human clan token, the number 1 talent. How could he be a Wu people spy? This was slander, slander. Fortunately, there were no other humans here. If someone heard this, how could he stay in the Jianghu? Aya, this is bad. That old fellow has heard everything. He has an old grudge with my father. I'm 99% sure that he's the cause of my current predicament. Will he kick me while I'm down and spread that devil slander? It's not good if 3 people talk about a tiger and a multitude of mouths can distort metal. On the other side, the great elder of the ice abyss said blandly, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. That's right. No matter what you say, it's always based on strength. The fist is the most powerful. The tone of this great shaman was obviously different from before. He was angry. The Ice Abyss felt that the leader of the demon clan in front of him was too unappreciative. The great elder of the Ice Abyss said that he would take him away again and again. I've wasted so much saliva, but this devil bastard doesn't give me face. Isn't this making this great shaman lose face? This is really preposterous. You really don't want face. I've told you again and again that he's just a child, but you still don't want to let him go. You look down on me. If Elder Flood was here, would this bastard dare to talk? Thinking of this, the great elder of the Ice Abyss suddenly felt that the demon clan really looked down on people. He was right. When he thought of this, his voice and tone naturally became more and more unpleasant to the ears. Then let's fight. The great elder of the Ice Abyss said coldly, I've known that you're like this for a long time. If I don't kill a few of you, how can I learn my lesson? The great elder of the poison abyss smiled sinisterly and said, It's good to move my hands and feet. Speaking of which, I really haven't moved for a long time. Let's take advantage of today's opportunity. Lei Chantian couldn't help but feel more and more strange. If it weren't for his good composure, high cultivation, and ability to control his mood, as well as considering the current situation, it would be normal for his eyeballs to fly out of their sockets in surprise. What's wrong with these two great elders? If I were to desperately protect my grandson, it would make sense and it would be natural. This is my biological grandson. But what's wrong with you two? Especially the great elder of the Ice Abyss. Why does he look more anxious than me? Before I could say anything, he rushed to the front line in a hurry. And as soon as he opened his mouth, he directly said that in order to protect Suo, he didn't hesitate to fight. He completely shed all pretenses of cordiality. Now, in order to protect his grandson, he's going to fight barehanded. What the hell? I've lived for so long, but it's the first time I've seen such a thing. I've really lived a long life. That's my grandson, not yours. Why are you in such a hurry? Look at how anxious you are. If I didn't know about my grandson's background, I might really think that he's a spy of the sorcerer tribe and a spy against the human race. How preposterous! The great elder of the devil clan was also angry. He said coldly, Well, let's take advantage of today's opportunity to learn from the great magi of the Wu people. He glanced at the poisonous shaman and said, Let's see whose cultivation is higher and whose power is stronger. These words naturally had a hidden meaning. Yes, I was talking about cultivation and martial prowess, not poison. I hope you can understand me and don't be as shameless as a certain someone. The poisonous shaman chuckled. Great elder is right. Then why haven't you evacuated the people yet? When we fight later, I'm not that strong, so it's inevitable that I'll use some unorthodox tricks. If I accidentally hurt someone, I'll be sorry. The poisonous shaman smiled eerily. I've already reminded you in advance. If something really happens, don't hurt our friendship. The corners of the 6 demon elders' mouths twitched in unison. Is this a reminder? You're clearly threatening us. We just said that we'll fight to determine the winner. Martial prowess and cultivation. Who said we're allowed to use poison? Didn't we put forward this condition to limit your poison? But you said you're going to use poison. Can't we play happily? You want to play with poison. Who the hell wants to play with you? You even want to disperse the crowd. That means you're going to use that kind of large-scale destructive poison gas. It's just 2 people fighting. Do you have to say that? With your power as a great magi, you can't control it yourself? What the hell? What the fuck? It turned out that the Wu people's great magi were each more shameless than the other. At this moment, a gust of wind suddenly blew in the sky. A voice came from afar, laughing. You're really in a good mood. You came here to play today. We're also here to join in the fun. Haha, although this place is in the Wu people's territory, we haven't been here for a long time. 2 figures flashed and appeared in the sky. One was in a snow-white robe, and the other was in a green robe. A vast expanse of vitality came with a green-robed man, and an empty world came with a white-robed man. It seemed that with the white-robed man's arrival, even this space was changed. It was a very strange feeling. The two people laughed and fell from the sky. All the high-level Devil Clan members, who had some knowledge, changed their expressions. The demon race's great elder's expression turned even uglier. It changed again and again, becoming uglier and uglier. Great Magus Dan Kong. Great Magus Zhu Meng. The Grand Elder couldn't hold back the shock in his heart. Out of the 12 great magi of the Wu people, 4 of them came today, and they came just for this young man. It was obvious that the Wu people were determined to suppress the Devil Clan with absolute power. He was finally sure. This bald young man was not only a spy for the Wu people against the human race, but also a direct descendant of the Flood, which are the Wu people. He should be the type to pass on a legacy. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so important. Not only did the Poison Magi who rarely left the Poison Valley come, even Deep Ice Dan Kong and Zhu Meng came in a hurry. This is indeed the plan of the Wu people. Chapter 1058. The Great Elder's thoughts flashed. I didn't think that the Wu people would be willing to put aside the racial barrier and cultivate such a peerless genius. No wonder they have always been able to suppress the Dao League. Then, this matter is completely related to the Wu people. As for that astral soul's human Lei Changtian, if he hadn't been instigated by the Wu people, then it would just be a coincidence. It has nothing to do with that bald kid. However, the shaman race is actually willing to nurture a human with a star soul, and they're even willing to accept him as their successor. They're really ruthless. With that kid's current progress, he'll be able to reach the peak of the human race's power in at most 1,000 years. The day when the shaman race destroys the human race's Dao alliance won't be far away. In the entire demon god castle, all the demons were discouraged, including the 6 elders. Now the other side had 4 Wu people great shamans, and the astral soul's demon ancestor was here to help. Their overall strength was already above the top level of the demons. If this battle really started, half of the demons would die. At least half of the upper echelons of the Devil Clan would die. If the non-poisonous shaman really used extreme poison without any scruples, a casual poisonous fog would be enough to take away millions, tens of millions, or even more of the Devil Clan's lives. It was absolutely not an illusion. The demons had been recuperating for millions of years, but their number was only SOSO. How could they bear such a loss? Since the 4 great shamans and this, Master Lei are all here, we demons are not as strong as them. We have nothing to say. The great elder of the demons took a deep breath and suppressed the indescribable grievance in his heart. That was the first time in so many years that he had been so aggrieved. He clenched his teeth and said, "You must take this boy away. I already know the reason. Thinking of the Wu people's kindness to us. Even if we are unwilling, we have nothing to say. But the girl he took away, she must stay. That girl has nothing to do with the Wu people, right?" Which Dan Kong said with a graceful smile. "What's the matter? Why are you all so nervous? Children are just messing around. Look at all of you. You're all so old, yet you're all at daggers drawn. If this gets out, you'll become a laughingstock." When the 6 elders of the demon race and the countless experts of the demon race heard this, they almost fainted. Fuck, another one. Here comes another one. Could it be that the 12 great sorcerers of the Umno Alliance are all like this? The moment they opened their mouths, they said he's still a child. Fuck, why don't you all just go and die? The poisonous, which turned to look at Zhua, Xiaoduo, and frowned. That woman, Zhua Xiaoduo, didn't understand why these senior magi of the Wu people would stand on his side so clearly. However, he still chose to stand out when there was no hope. How could he hand over Zhang Xuejuan under such a favorable situation? He raised his head and said, "How? Is it unrelated? That is my wife. How can I hand her over?" He had no choice. This was the only reason he could use in front of the fierce battle. If he said classmate, friend, sister-in-law, although he had a position, it was not as direct as this. Sure enough, Lei Changtian took the lead and said, "That's right. Who would hand over his wife? You guys, although you're of different races, are you willing to hand over your wife?" The Ice Abyss, which said, "Even if you have this tradition, we don't have such a tradition." The great sorcerer Dan Kong said, "You took someone else's wife. This is a blood feud. No wonder this child is crazy. Not only is it pardonable, but it's also reasonable." The poisonous witch said, "That's right. That's his wife, alas." Speaking of this, he felt sad and thought of his beloved wife who had passed away many years ago. Wasn't this the same situation in the past? Was she also killed by someone? Thinking of this, he suddenly felt the same way and became furious. You even did such a despicable thing as taking someone else's wife and torturing her so inhumanely. What's wrong with killing a few of you? You deserve to be killed. You deserve to be killed. Among the four great sorcerers, only the Zhu Meng great sorcerer was confused and didn't understand what was going on. He didn't understand the identity of Zhuo, nor did he know what Zhuo had done. He didn't understand how this confrontation was formed. It could be said that he didn't know anything at all. He was completely confused. But the three brothers had completely exploded in anger. The Zhu Meng great sorcerer didn't care about right or wrong. Of course, he also had to express his position. You demons are too much. You dare to take someone else's wife. Now that someone has come to the door, you still want to keep someone else's wife. You demons are shameless. This is the only reason that Zhu Meng Great which can find now. But he feels that this is the only reason and it is justified enough. The great elder of the demon clan was so angry that his face turned red and his blood rushed to his forehead. You're all too shameless. We have seen through your foundation and intentions. We are willing to give in and compromise. That young man is the spy of the Wu people against the human clan and the successor of the Flood Witch. How can he take a woman from an ordinary family of the astral souls as his wife? There is no such reason in the world. That woman is the hope of the demon clan. The hope of the demon clan to welcome back the people outside and the continent drifting in the starry sky. What do you know? Why do you talk nonsense here? But this sentence can't be said. After saying it, I'm afraid there will be no such opportunity in the future. It's more likely that the 12 great sorcerers will directly lead an army to kill you. What do you want to do if you want to welcome back the continent drifting outside? The closest continent to you is the Wu people. If you demons want to expand your territory, don't you have to destroy the Wu people first? In that case, why do we keep you alive? Do we want you to be in big trouble? Once this sentence was out, the demon clan would be exterminated in an instant. It was not only completely imaginable, but also inevitable. The great elder of the demon clan took a deep breath and said, when the war ended, the demon clan suffered a great loss. Thanks to the kindness of the Wu people, the demon clan gave us the demon spirit forest to recuperate. We promised the Wu people that the demon spirit forest would not come and the demon clan would not appear, so we would never leave the demon spirit forest again. The flood which also gave us the restriction that the demon spirit forest belongs to us. Only the great sorcerers of the Wu people can enter it without permission. I've heard that the flood which values rules the most, but now I don't understand why all the great sorcerers are gathered here. Now, has the demon spirit forest come? The great elder held his breath and finally couldn't help but ask. If it was just facing 4 great sorcerers of the Wu people and a demon ancestor of the human clan, the difference in absolute strength between the two sides was not small, but if the demon clan united their strength, they might still be able to fight. If the non-poisonous great sorcerer was willing to promise not to use poison in this battle, the odds of winning would be even higher. After all, the non-poisonous great sorcerer was famous for his poison. If he really didn't use poison, his combat power would inevitably be reduced. But the non-poisonous great sorcerer used his poison to enter the battle. The result would not only change, but it was also the key to the demon clan's defeat. The great ice which rolled her eyes and said, "Great elder, you're asking the obvious and making false accusations. This time, it's not us who trespassed into the demon forest. It's clearly your demon tribe who used the tricks of the ghost realm to capture our junior's wife. Our junior didn't care about the hardships and dangers, and went through all kinds of hardships and difficulties to come and save her for love, for loyalty, for his lover, but he was ruthlessly killed by you. It's clear that we were forced to come to save her, So we entered the demon spirit forest. The ice abyss great sorcerer's mouth was really sharp, and he became more and more eloquent. The so-called water has a source. The tree has a root. Everything has a root. There's a cause. There is an effect, and vice versa. The great sorcerer Dan Kong was very cultured. He said, "In this world, there is never love for no reason, and there is never hate for no reason." So Xiao Duo, who was listening at the back, felt like prostrating himself in admiration. This great sorcerer Dan Kong was actually very fashionable. He could even casually say such a vulgar internet joke of the human clan. The great elder said angrily, "Nonsense! That is clearly a human woman of the astral souls that we captured with the secret method of our clan. What does it have to do with your Umno alliance? You are clearly grabbing her by force and twisting words and logic." The Ice Abyss great sorcerer was furious. "Nonsense! Can my child explain his wife's name, which family she came from, and the origin of her story? If you didn't go through the Wu people, how did you go to the astral souls? In this way, it is clear that you demons have violated the oath long ago." The demons, the great elder's whole person was not good. He was clearly right, but now it seemed like he was in the wrong. How could he speak like this? "We will definitely take her away," the great sorcerer Dan Kong said gracefully. "Especially. His wife has been taken away by him. Why don't you just say it? Are you going to let her go? Or rather, what do you want to do to let her go? Do you really want to fight? Or do you think that we are not enough and need a few more people? What is it, great elder? Please give us a straightforward answer. What are the specific rules? We will accept them." The Ice Abyss great sorcerer saw that his side was strong, and their comprehensive strength had overshadowed the other side. Whether it was a one-on-one fight or a group fight, they were all confident of victory. He became more and more arrogant and showed off his strength. "Whatever you want, we will listen to you," the Ice Abyss great sorcerer shouted. "Whatever you want, we will listen to you. Of course, we know that you can do whatever you want now. You have the upper hand." The 6 elders of the demon clan cursed in their hearts. Finally, they gritted their teeth and said, "Let her go." He looked at Zhua Xiaoduo. His eyes, body, and heart were filled with hatred. He wanted to grind Zhua Xiaoduo's bones into dust and cut him into 1,000 pieces. This little bastard killed nearly 20,000 of our men, but that was secondary. Because of him alone, he destroyed our 10,000-year plan and took away the most important person. Now we have to watch him swagger away. Even if one were to scoop up all the water from the 5 lakes, 4 seas, and 3 rivers, it would still be difficult to wash away the shame on his face today. "What is your name?" The 3rd elder of the demon clan looked at Zhua Xiaoduo fiercely and said, "Junior, leave your name. This blood debt, this karma, our demon clan will naturally find you in the future." Chapter 10:59. Xiaoduo snorted, puffed out his chest, and raised his head, and said in a clear voice, "As a man, I will not change my name. My name is Bing Xiaoing." Puff. Great Witch Dan Kong choked inexplicably, and then forced himself not to laugh. Great Witch's face was full of black lines, but he still pretended to be calm. Great Elder sneered, "Bing Xiaobing he. No wonder Great Witch. He's talking nonsense. He's lying." A voice shouted angrily and anxiously, "Ancestor, this bald man's real name is Zhua Xiaoduo. He claims to be the 2nd disciple of the Western sect, and his Dharma name is Duo Duo Relai. Zhu means that the left side of the sky belongs to him. Small means that the left side of the sky is too small. Duo means that he is not afraid of killing many people in this life. The more, the better." That voice was muffled, and that tone was full of unconcealable stupidity. It was the stupid former commander of the Devil Clan, Mo Shurgio, the 2nd disciple of the Western sect, Duo Duo Relai. The 6 Devil Clan elders were a little confused at this moment. How could there be a matter of the Western sect? But on second thought, they knew that this guy must have been fooled by the bald man in front of them again. For a moment, they were angry. The elders were so angry that their intestines were about to explode. They were not angry at Xiaoduo for lying, but at Demon 19. "You idiot, You remember it very well. It's fine if you just introduce the name, but look at the long list of names you recited. But now is not the right time to deal with him. When these murderous stars are sent away, I'll teach you a lesson. Good, good, good. Swishauduo good. The more, the better. Third elder gritted his teeth and said, Zwishauduo, we will remember you. In the future, there will be people of our clan who will settle this account with you and end this karma. Zwishauduo did not care. He laughed and said, Welcome, welcome, warmly welcome. The six of them walked out of the demon spirit forest with their heads held high and chests puffed out under the hateful eyes of millions of demons. After walking out of the Devil Soul Castle, he immediately flew into the sky. The six of them were still flying side by side. Zwishauduo's shining head was especially dazzling. Even after walking for thousands of miles, he could still feel the soaring resentment behind him. This time, the billions of demons in the devil race would remember the name Zwishauduo. The more Tathagatas, the better. This hatred was absolutely irreconcilable. As for the six people who were walking out side by side, their moods were not calm at all. Lei Zhongtian's stomach was full of apprehension, and his head was full of confusion. He didn't understand. Even in his dreams, he would never have imagined that things would develop to this point. Zwishauduo must be the son of his daughter and that bastard Zwichanshan. There was no doubt about this. However, since he was their son, how could the Wu people put in so much effort to protect him? If he had not already confirmed that Zwishauduo was the son of his daughter and Zwishauduo, he would have suspected that Zwishauduo was the son of the flood, which based on the methods that Zwishauduo had shown and the attitude of the great shamans of the Wu people towards him. Lei Changtian could not understand this no matter how hard he thought about it. Even after using his lifetime of experience, he still could not understand the key point. My grandson, the son of the astral souls continent sky, patrol throne, and the rain demon. There was no doubt about this. However, the four great shamans of the Wu people were so nervous about this treasure, as if it was their own son. This was really outrageous. As for Zwishauduo, who was the direct beneficiary of this battle, he was completely dumbfounded. In his opinion, any one of the five great shamans around him was a powerful being that he could not fight against. Any one of them could crush him to death with one finger, or even blow him to death with one breath. Things had developed to this point in a very strange way. Zwishauduo was just as confused as Lei Changtian was. What was going on? Could it be that the great elder of the demon race is really thinking of instigating me to betray them and frame me? Isn't this thinking too highly of me? Although I am a peerless heaven's pride, although I'm talented, although I am invincible among the younger generation, sending four great shamans of the Wu people to protect me at the same time, at the expense of offending the demon race, who has been their natural ally for millions of years. Isn't the price of instigating a rebellion and framing me too high? This kind of planning, there must be a big plan, at least the price should be similar to the price. However, the more Zwishauduo thought about it, the more he felt that it was inconceivable. The current situation was not only extremely terrifying, it was simply terrifying to the extreme. It was too frightening to the point that he was on tenterhooks. Based on this idea, Zwishauduo secretly opened the space-destroying tower early, but he didn't dare to act rashly. Who knew if the moment he acted rashly, would it lead to the counterattack of the top great shamans nearby? He was really not sure if he could escape in the space-destroying tower. These were the top great shamans of the world. As Zwishauduo was thinking, the group of people had already flown out of the demon spirit forest. As soon as they stood still, before Lei Changtian had time to speak, he was shocked to see the great shaman of Ice Abyss suddenly turn around and punch the great shaman of Zhumang with 2 punches. The great shaman of Zhumang was caught off guard by the surprise attack, and he was hit directly. For a moment, he was dizzy and in pain. He was shocked and angry, and said angrily, What are you doing?" The great shaman of Ice Abyss said angrily, "You are a bastard. You set me up like this and deceived me into dying together with this old devil. Zhumang, Today's matter is not over. I will spend my life with you. You wait for me. When I call my sister and brother-in-law, we will work together to kill you." The great shaman of Zhu Meng flew into a rage. "You." Before he finished speaking, the great shaman of Ice Abyss punched him in the eye with 2 quick punches. Suddenly, the great shaman of Zhu Meng couldn't look at his face anymore. Then the great shaman of Ice Abyss turned around and ran, shouting as he ran, "Zhu Meng, you should eat and drink for the rest of the day. When I come to you with my sister and brother-in-law, there will be no chance. Don't say that I didn't remind you. You set me up like this, and I came to save your life." Hearing this, the great shaman of Zhu Meng was furious. "You're not done yet. I'm not done with you now." Before his voice died away, he gritted his teeth and chased after him. In the blink of an eye, the two had disappeared. Duo and Lei Chantian felt inexplicable. They stared and didn't know what to say. Then, the great shaman of Dan Kong said to the great shaman of Poisonous Poison, "Adu, this time I was in seclusion to study the technique of space folding and turning over, but I had an unexpected gain. It seems to be the legendary Saint's Poison. I didn't dare to touch it myself." The great shaman of Poisonous Poison's eyes suddenly brightened, and his interest increased greatly. "Saint's Poison? Is there such a thing? Are you serious?" "It's just that I can't confirm, so I said it seems to be. Let's go while my inspiration is still there. Let's finalize this matter as soon as possible." Before his voice died away, the great shaman of Dan Kong had already pulled the great shaman of Poisonous Poison and left. In the blink of an eye, the 4 great shamans disappeared without a trace. Before leaving, they didn't even look at Xiaoduo, let alone say hello to Lei Changtian. They left just like that. Zhu Meng and Poisonous Poison were at a loss. They knew that Bing Ming and Dan Kong had used this method to pull them away for a reason. Based on their trust in their brothers, the 2 of them left without another word. But Bing Ming and Dan Kong already didn't want to talk at all. If this old devil knew that his boss had taken this kid as his godson, this old devil would definitely immediately act like an uncle. There was nothing to say about this. He was truly a generation younger than him. It was one thing to run into him on the battlefield, but it was very uncomfortable to run into him during normal times like this. So they couldn't greet him at all. If they did, the old devil would definitely ask, "Why are you doing this?" They couldn't answer this question. They couldn't let him know, even if they were beaten to death. So, hurry up and run. Lei Chantian was even more dumbfounded. What was going on? Why? Why did they leave just like that? What did this mean? You've been shouting and yelling for so long, but suddenly there's no follow-up? And why are you doing this? You have to explain to this old man, right? Leaving just like that? Are the 4 of you stupid cunt? You've specially come to help the enemy get through a difficult time, and now you're leaving? Lei Chantian only felt a wave of discomfort in his chest. Fuck, even a fight with me would be better than being stifled like this. Lei Chantian turned his head unconsciously and naturally met Zhou Xiaoduo's equally stupefied gaze. Zhou Xiaoduo was actually even more stupefied than Lei Chantian. What happened just now? What's going on now? Why did those people save me? Why did those people leave? Why did this old man save me? Isn't he my enemy? Didn't my father kill his daughter? This old man. He doesn't look like a good person. Now that the Wu people are gone, he's going to attack me? Devil Ancestor coughed and said, "Ahem, ahem, Achem. Xiaoduo, are you all right?" He had already tried his best to make his voice sound more amiable and to make his face look more benevolent. He was trying his best to leave a good impression in front of his grandson so that they could grow closer in the future, that after all, he had scared this kid just now, but that Devil Ancestor was not ugly, or else he wouldn't have been able to give birth to a beauty like Wu Yuding, but his initial genes were still very strong. At the very least, he could definitely be considered as a handsome young man. But he had been practicing demonic arts for many years, and his whole body was full of gloominess that was difficult to hide. No matter how amiable he was still intimidating, at least in the eyes of Zhou Xiaoduo, who had long been prejudiced against him. Fuck, this old man is smiling maliciously again. What does this old man want to do now? No matter what he wants to do, he must be trying to harm me again. But he saved me just now? That counts as saving me, right? Zhuo Xiaoduo's god soul was originally tightly locked onto the Tower of Annihilation that had already opened. His body slowly retreated, and in a cowering posture, he laughed dryly and said, "Old man, ha, we meet again. What coincidence, ha." He was fully concentrated, and his spirit was highly concentrated. As soon as Lei Changtian made a slight move, he would retreat with all his strength and desperately retreat into the Tower of Annihilation. Lei Changtian's eyesight was very good, and he immediately felt distressed. Look at how scared the kid was. It's all my fault. So he quickly smiled and said, "Ha, good kid, don't be afraid. Ha. Today is the birthday of Alliance Master Ling Moyu. The little beauty has been the backbone of the Feng family from the Supreme Master to the heterodox. On your birthday, I wish you a happy birthday, and I hope you will become more and more beautiful. Every year, you will live a carefree life, and you'll be satisfied." Chapter 1060. Hearing the laughter, Zhuo Xiaoduo's entire body started to tremble. He instinctively took a step back and waved his hands repeatedly. Even his shrieking voice changed. "You, don't come over." The demon ancestor was stunned and said, Don't misunderstand. I don't mean any harm. I didn't mean any harm from the beginning. The grudge I'm talking about is..." The Xiao Duo shook his head like a rattle drum. "Senior, seeing that you can even talk to the great shaman of the sorcerer tribe, your relationship must be pretty good. You must be a big shot in our star spirit continent, a pinnacle existence. Whatever you did to me, I will definitely keep it to myself and not tell anyone." The demon ancestor sighed. "Son, I know you misunderstood, but you really misunderstood. I'm your grandfather." So Xiao Duo curled his lips and cursed in his heart. "I'm your grandfather." Of course, he didn't believe this kind of relationship. "You almost killed me, and now you're telling me you're my grandfather? Haha, that you can ask the readers of the books, do they believe it? Do they believe this? Even if they do, I still don't believe it. How can there be such a heartless grandfather in the world? But his mouth was as sweet as honey. I knew there must be something between us." Suddenly, with a face full of surprise and joy, he said with a trembling voice, "Dad, why are you here?" His eyes were fixed on Lei Changtian's back. The ecstasy on his face was almost overflowing. That kind of sincere emotion made everyone who saw him happy for him. It was the extreme emotion of reuniting with family after a long separation. However, Lei Changtian wasn't among them. Hearing this and seeing Zhuo Xiaoduo's expression, Lei Changtian shuddered and his face changed. If Zhuo Xiaoduo had called someone else, Lei Changtian wouldn't have cared. He wouldn't even believe it. Who in the world can sneak up behind me without me noticing? Who else could it be? But Zhuo Xiaoduo called him dad. This was a completely different story, because he knew who Zhuo Xiaoduo's dad was. That person really had this kind of ability. If it was really him, then wouldn't it mean that the matter of him taking his grandson out for training had been exposed? Zhuo Changchang was here. If it was just him, it would still be fine. He still had not settled the old score of him marrying his daughter. However, Zhuo Changchang was here, and the matter was exposed. That meant that his daughter would also know everything that had happened during this period of time. That would really be a complete loss, and it would be completely over. Lei Changtian turned around like a whirlwind and thought, I have to act like a father-in-law. I must control Zhuo Changchang as soon as I see him. If you really can't do it, I'll just say a few words. I'll admit that I took advantage of my daughter in the past. As long as you don't pursue what I did to your son and don't tell my daughter about it. We can talk about anything. That while he was thinking, his face had already uncontrollably revealed a flattering smile. Duh. Just as he was about to instinctively say, So, you're here. What a coincidence. He found that there was no one in front of him. Lei Changtian was very experienced. How could he not know that things were not good? He turned around again like a whirlwind. As expected, Zhuo Xiaoduo had disappeared without a trace. What the fuck? Lei Changtian was dumbfounded. Disappeared? Disappeared again? This little bastard can actually disappear in front of me. He's so slippery. But what came next was an inexplicable anger towards himself. He raised his hand and slapped himself 7 or 8 times. You're already like this, and you still call him boss. You're such a good-for-nothing. At this moment, Lei Chantian was so angry that his eyes turned red. I'm such a good-for-nothing. When I see my son-in-law, I can't help but call him Big Brother I. Sigh. I'd better hurry and find my grandson that no matter how capable this kid is, no matter how fast he runs, he can't go too far. He must still be hiding in this area. There's a 99% chance that he's hiding in his mysterious space equipment. With his skills, other than this move, it's impossible for him to disappear instantly in front of me. Then I'll just wait here for him at the demon ancestor side. As he scolded himself for being a good-for-nothing, he hid his figure and disappeared between heaven and earth. Out in the space, Zhou Xiaoduo, who was still in shock, sat on the ground, panting heavily. I finally escaped in here. I actually managed to escape in here. Just now, that old man must have used his divine sense to lock on me. Although I had an idea and used a strange move, it's still unbelievable that I succeeded. If I failed, I can't help but think about it, right? However, after his idea failed, Xiaoduo couldn't help but recall some of the things that happened today. He realized that everything was not right. What exactly happened today? Not only did he not understand, but the more he thought about it, the more he couldn't understand the 4 great sorcerers of the Wu people. Why did they talk and act like they were just here to help? Why did they do that? His mind was in a mess. This was completely unreasonable. Even if what the great elder of the demon clan said was right, that the Wu people saw him as a peerless genius and wanted to instigate him. But why didn't they follow up? They didn't expect anything in return for their kindness? The Wu people saved him. How could they not expect anything in return for their kindness? It should be that they didn't forget to repay their kindness. So Xiaoduo thought about it for a long time. The more he thought about it, the more he couldn't understand. He successfully turned his brain into a pile of paste. Damn, I'm completely confused. I don't want to think about it. Who knows what these high-level people are thinking? For me, it's too far away. Maybe they're harming others without benefiting themselves. It can be seen that I'm not the kind of person who can become a high-level person. So Xiaoduo sighed dejectedly. It seems that my highest achievement in the future will be to unify the 9 continents, and then become a boss who doesn't do anything. At most, I'll be a spiritual leader. So sad. So Xiaoduo had one great advantage. He didn't want to think about things that he couldn't figure out. He always had a divine logic. Since he couldn't figure it out, what else could he do? Since he couldn't figure it out, he might as well not think about it and not waste his brain cells. Thinking of this, he suddenly became happy again. So Xiaoduo, am really wise. Why should I think about those unhappy things? Then he thought of Zhan Xuejuan, who was saved by him. Turning around, he saw Zhan Xuejuan, and the upper half of the altar were placed on the ground of the Tower of Emptiness. So Xiaoduo remembered that he hadn't taken the time to check on Zhan Xuejuan's condition. He couldn't help but worry and went to check on her. He saw that Zhan Xuejuan's body was intact, and her face was healthy and rosy. It seemed that the demon energy that penetrated her body didn't cause any harm to her. She didn't look like she was unconscious, but asleep. If Xiaoduo knew what had happened to Zhan Xuejuan before, he would be even more surprised. That day, Zhan Xuejuan had cut off her own arm in order to get rid of the source of the disaster. The broken arm had already grown back, and it was no different from the original arm. The 9 Deaths revival liquid of the demon clan was a panacea for healing injuries. It had the amazing effect of reviving flesh and bones. In terms of physical condition, the current Zhan Xuejuan could be said to be healthier than ever before. It was a pity that Xiaoduo didn't know the reason. Instead, he found it strange. Since Zhan Xuejuan wasn't injured, it must be the effect of the medicine that the demon clan gave her. Now that the restraints were removed, why hadn't she woken up? Zhou Xiaoduo's mind spun like lightning as he nimbly removed the chains from Zhan Xuejuan's body. Then he realized that he seemed to have struck gold again. The chains that bound Zhan Xuejuan and the upper half of the altar were clearly made of the same material. It was an extremely rare material, nightmare gold. The rarity of this metal was almost only in legends. It was said that weapons made of this metal would naturally produce a strange effect when they were wielded. It could cause the enemy to fall into a nightmare and be unable to control themselves in battle. The weaker the state of mind, the higher the chance of triggering it. It was definitely a rare magical weapon for battle formations. With such a magical weapon, the chances of winning would be multiplied. So Xiaoduo checked it again and again before he could confirm that it was really nightmare gold. After all, he didn't expect the demon clan to be so generous to build an altar with this kind of strange metal. It was really a big deal. If he smashed down with his hammer, it would at least weigh 1,000,000 pounds, right? Sure enough, God always blesses the good. Good people will be rewarded. It really doesn't deceive me. The more Xiaoduo thought about it, the more beautiful it was. He couldn't help but feel relaxed and happy. Saving people can also make me rich. He carefully untied Zhang Xuejuan from the pillar and placed her aside. Then, he couldn't help but click his tongue. This girl must be more than 9 meters tall. Her figure's really. Only Xiangcheng would have such a figure. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they would really feel like a bean sprout. He thought about himself and shook his head. I thought my body was okay, but now it seems that I'm still weak. Then he checked Zhang Xuejuan's pulse to confirm her condition. He couldn't help but frown immediately. It's incredible. I can't see any wounds on her body. I saw the places where the demon qi penetrated with my own eyes, but there's no trace of it at all. Her head. After checking his head, he found nothing as well. All in all, from top to bottom, there was no wound at all. She was full of energy, vital energy, and spirit. Her internal organs were working normally, and her dantian was full of vital energy. Everything showed that she was extremely healthy. But why didn't she wake up? What's the problem? Although Xiaoduo was puzzled, he already had the answer in his heart. This should be the thing that he didn't want to encounter the most, and also the thing that he hoped would not happen the most. Her divine soul was injured. Her body was intact. There was no wound on her body. Everything was normal, but she was still unconscious. If her divine soul was not injured, what else could it be? So Xiaoduo sighed. He frowned and thought for a long time. Then he sighed and took out a bottle of laurel honey. Chapter 1061. This was the best treasure he had on hand for the divine soul. At the same time, it was also a non-renewable resource. Once it was used up, there would be no more. Usually, Xiaoduo would not bear to drink it. However, the situation was different now. No matter how reluctant he was, he had to use it. I have to pay attention to the dosage. Yin Yin and I almost exploded the last time. Xiaoduo muttered, according to Yin Yin and my standards, 1 drop at a time is the limit. Although Zhang Xuejuan is also a genius, she is definitely not as good as us. Especially now that she is in a coma. 1 drop is definitely not enough. It's too much. To be conservative, 1/4 of a drop is enough. If it doesn't work, I'll add more. Xiaoduo poured out a drop of laurel honey and carefully divided it into 4 parts. 1 part was mixed with spiritual water. Then, he fed it to Zhang Xuejuan. It was okay to feed her the spiritual water mixed with laurel honey. However, Zhang Xuejuan's face immediately showed an extremely painful expression. Rich spiritual energy also rose. A gust of white gas rose from the top of her head. So Xiaoduo watched quietly without blinking. Then, he saw a faint black gas appear. Although the black gas was faint, it appeared to be enveloping Zhang Xuejuan's white divine soul. It was as if a layer of haze had dyed the holy color, and it was impossible to get rid of it. Although he was just watching from the side, Xiaoduo could already feel that the hidden pure demonic aura in the black gas was unprecedentedly pure. Even when he was in the demon spirit forest, he had never felt it to be this pure. What's more, Xiaoduo even felt that the demonic aura was not necessarily evil. It was the ultimate form of dark power. The extreme power of darkness revealed its sharpness and gave off a feeling of invincibility. It was as if as long as this power was released, no matter what was in front of it, it would definitely penetrate it. That kind of sharp, domineering aura. It was full of arrogance and domineering, and it was insufferably arrogant. Damn, what kind of power is this? Zhuo tried to use the power of his divine soul to come into contact with this inexplicable power, but he was shocked to find that the power was suddenly on high alert. It even formed a sharp point and was about to pierce through him. Zhuo instantly felt his blood run cold, and his blood run cold. He did not dare to act rashly and hurriedly withdrew his divine soul. Fuck, why are you so fierce? What is this? Zhuo immediately recalled that when they were in the Great Hall of Magic Souls, Zhan Xuejuan had suddenly appeared and attacked him. Fuck, it's another thing that's beyond my knowledge. Zhuo felt increasingly helpless. With his current cultivation and knowledge, there was really nothing he could do about this situation. Sister, Big Sister Zhan, please wake up quickly. Zhuo prayed in his heart. At least, when you wake up, I'll know how you feel. Zhan Xuejuan was still lying peacefully on the bed. The magical effect of the laurel honey was undoubtedly working. The power of her divine soul was increasing at a rate visible to the naked eye. However, the demonic chi did not weaken at all. It was as if it had a mind of its own, stubbornly defending its position and not retreating a single step. Zhan Xuejuan's divine soul was getting stronger and stronger, and the demonic chi was also getting more and more condensed. What's more, from Zhan Xuejuan's body, there was a continuous stream of black gas, which gradually merged into the demonic chi. Zhuo could feel the deep hatred, the kind of hatred that could destroy heaven and earth. He could also completely imagine the endless accumulation of hatred in Zhan Xuejuan's heart during the process of torture. He believed that during the process, this strong and determined woman must have thought countless times in her heart that as long as she could get out of here alive, in this life, she would definitely wipe out the demonic clan, leaving no one alive. And this hatred had become an extreme obsession in the bottom of her heart. However, this obsession, in a sense, also belonged to the category of inner demons. Inner demons were also demons. After the divine soul's divine soul was restored and greatly increased, the accumulated hatred in the bottom of her heart became more and more pervasive, but it also became the nourishment for the demonic chi that invaded her divine soul. Zhuo wasn't stupid. He immediately understood the situation and couldn't help but sigh. Looking at the demonic chi that rose above Zhan Xuejuan's head and the white divine soul's divine soul, it seemed to be slowly influenced by this bone-deep hatred, gradually evolving into a faint red color. What should we do? Zhuo's face was full of worry. He had saved her, but how should he deal with the situation in front of him? Looking at the fluctuation of Zhan Xuejuan's divine soul, the situation where primordial chi and devil chi intertwined, Zhuo was at a loss of what to do. It was clear that Zhan Xuejuan was unable to control herself and was unable to resist. That was why there were signs of her spirit overflowing. The more Zhuo thought about it, the more worried he became. What should he do? He didn't know how to deal with this matter. The more he delayed, the more he could only sit and wait for death. Now that he was in the Tower of Annihilation, he was safe for the time being. But the old man outside most likely would not leave. He reckoned that as long as he dared to show his face, he would be the first to be caught. What else could he do? He could only hide in the Tower of Annihilation for a while. After a long while, the chi of divine soul above Zhan Xuejuan's head gradually reached its peak and condensed into a ball. The signs of intertwining with the devil chi became clearer and clearer. It was not strange that the two existed fundamentally different. Compared to the devil chi, Zhan Xuejuan's chi of divine soul was naturally much more. Comparing the two, there was a huge difference of 99% to 0. 1%. However, Zhan Xuejuan's chi of divine soul was in the form of a fog. It was a mess inside, and there was no clue at all. As for the devil chi, it was only a little bit, but it was so black that it was shining, as if it was solid. Visually, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. However, the slight black chi had formed a complete suppression on Zhan Xuejuan's chi of divine soul. It gradually evolved into a binding and wrapping situation, as if it wanted to devour the many. It wanted to completely control Zhan Xuejuan's qi of divine soul. So a Xiaoduo, who knew that the situation was not right, could only watch helplessly. There was nothing he could do, and he could not deal with it. What's more, the quarter drop of laurel honey was not only a great supplement for Zhan Xuejuan's qi of divine soul, it was also greatly beneficial to the devil qi. So Xiaoduo knew that he had done something wrong by acting rashly. He stared, rubbed his hands, and said with a melancholy face, "This whole thing." Fortunately, he did not feed her a complete drop of laurel honey. Otherwise, the situation would be even worse and more difficult to deal with. So Xiaoduo had thought of taking a gamble, hoping that the old man who called himself the devil ancestor would give up and leave when he saw that there was no trace of him. Although the probability was very small, as long as he succeeded, he could try to go back to Elder Wan and ask Elder Wan to save the devil qi in Zhan Xuejuan's body. No matter how strange the devil qi was in front of Elder Wan, it could not make a big splash. But it was just a wishful thinking. Not to mention that the old man, the devil ancestor, knew his background very well. It was impossible for him to leave. Even if he really left, how could he go back? The Heavenly Spirit Forest was located between the Devil Spirit Forest and the Demon Spirit Forest. If he wanted to enter the Heavenly Spirit Forest again, he would have to pass through the Devil Spirit Forest. With the Devil Clan's attitude of hating him to the bone, how could he go through the Devil Spirit Forest be the same as courting death? This one's where Xiaoduo was in a dilemma and did not know what to do. Clang! Suddenly, there was a clang of a sword in the air. The Huahuang sword felt the surging devil qi and flew over quickly. As the light flashed, the tip of the sword was already facing the two kinds of spiritual qi that were entangled above Zhan Xuejuan's head. Zhuo Xiaoduo clearly saw that the moment the tip of the sword touched the devil qi immediately stopped. It felt like a person who saw someone who was much stronger than him and was instinctively scared. He was acting arrogant and domineering, but he was suddenly scared silly. He was stiff. That kind of cowering, that kind of fear, that kind of helplessness, all of them were on the surface of the seven emotions, and they were fully expressed in his expression. Zhuo Xiaoduo could not help but feel that he had seen a ghost. He actually felt an extremely complicated intertwining of emotions from that wisp of devil qi. That wisp of devil qi, could it be that it had become a spirit? Clang! The sound of the sword rang again. The Huahuang sword flew back and forth in the air. The sword light flashed again, and the pressure was getting heavier and heavier. The tip of the sword was getting fiercer and fiercer. It seemed to be showing off, but also seemed to be asking, "Are you convinced? You bastard, are you convinced?" So Xiaoduo felt that he could feel the arrogance and complacency very clearly. He knew that it was real and not fake, and that was what it was. It was probably a feeling of joy that he had finally found a target that he could bully. The Huahuang sword was feeling that now. The god-killing spear. Ha ha! You bastard, you actually fell into my hands today. This is the reincarnation of the heavens. Who will be spared by the heavens? Howl, howl, howl. You bastard, you were ranked behind me back then, but you were still unconvinced. What was there to be unconvinced about? Who asked your master to not be as awesome as my master? You knew my identity and status, but you still provoke me time and time again. Now, after so many years, we meet again after so many years, and I have finally caught a wisp of your spear spirit. Ha ha, that retribution is not good, but I'm so happy. Under the constant coercion of the Huahuang sword, the sword spirit continued to release spiritual pressure. Between the sword spirit and the spear spirit, a confrontation that Zhuo Xiaoduo could not see and a conversation that could not be heard was unfolding. The Huahuang sword was like a mountain pressing down on the Huahuang sword. Its momentum was unparalleled, and it suppressed the spear spirit to the point that it could not breathe. At this moment, it had already retracted the part of its power that was suppressing Zhan Xuejuan's soul and concentrated all its power in one place, forming an illusory spear tip. It confronted the Huahuang sword, barely holding on. However, it was obviously like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It was in imminent danger, and it looked like it was about to be pushed down by force. The only thing left was for the Huahuang sword to put in more effort and give a final kick. Then, it would be easy to destroy it, and it would be bullied at will. Ha ha ha. Spear, you also have a day like this. The Huahuang sword shook its head and wagged its tail arrogantly. It was extremely satisfied with its success. So satisfying, so satisfying, so satisfying. Chapter 1062. Back then, you relied on your strong foundation to suppress the heavens and dominate the untainted land. I'm afraid you never dreamed that you would fall into the hands of Master Sword today. Ha 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 ha. You, why are you here? How can this be? The god-slaying spear was shocked and terrified. Ha ha, why can't I be here? If I'm not here, how can I catch you? The Huahuang sword looked down at it proudly. What do you want? The god-slaying spear was even more cowardly and guilty. Get out of this girl's body. With your current strength, you can't fight me even if you go all out. If you're distracted, you'll only lose faster. The Huahuang sword ordered directly. Impossible. The god-slaying spear refused. I've been forced to leave my main body and become a passive individual. I'm a tree without roots and water without a source. If I lose the nourishment of this soul, I'll only gradually be exhausted and even completely die. What does that have to do with me? The situation is clear now. Whether you come out or not, I'll beat you out. Death is inevitable. You're bullying the spear and taking advantage of the spear's danger. I want to bully the spear and take advantage of the spear's danger. I've already said that retribution is bad. I'm happy. What's the use of you being happy? You and I are both weapon spirits. Once we die, we won't exist anymore. As long as I'm happy, I don't care if you're here or not. Don't be arrogant. You have to know that I'm not to be trifled with. The god-slaying spear was cowardly. Get out. I'm not going out. Are you going out or not? I'm not going out. Of course, the god-slaying spear's spirit was unwilling to go out. Even if the situation was better than the person, there had to be a bottom line. If it really went out, it would be finished. The soul devourer's spear sensed that the summoning was interrupted. It forcefully split a bit of its true spirit and leaped into the air, hoping to quickly resume the summoning. The channel continued. However, the moment the true spirit arrived, it had to kill the initiator of the summoning ritual, Zuoshaoduo. However, Zuoshaoduo had the Thousand Souls Nightmare Hammer, Bai, and Xiaohei. He also had the Divine Stone to replenish him at any time. The soul-devouring spear's subsoul was attacking an endless stream of vitality. Zuoshaoduo did not die, and most of the power of the true spirit had been eliminated. Therefore, the true spirit could only reside in Zhan Xuejuan's spiritual space on the other side of the summoning. If it really went out with its current energy, it would probably turn into ashes in less than half a day. Originally, the quarter of a drop of laurel honey could be said to be a rare benefit. It allowed the real spirit to regain its vitality and oppressed Zhan Xuejuan's spirit. Once it succeeded, it would devour the spirit and use it to control Zhan Xuejuan's physical body. It would automatically return to the side of the Devil Clan and start the summoning ritual again. Originally, Spear's spirit had a perfect plan. Zuoshaoduo was afraid of harming him, and he didn't know the reason behind it. As long as he could hold on for a while, he would be able to get through the crisis. But who would have thought that his archenemy from a long time ago had actually jumped out at this crucial moment, taking advantage of his weakness to take his life. At this moment, Spear's spirit was full of regret. Sigh. He had developed a vengeful temper. It was really terrible. Why didn't he hide properly before? Why did he only want to kill the disruptor of the ritual? So Zuoshaoduo looked at the shadows of a sword and a spear in front of him and subconsciously had a subtle feeling that the two of them were in the middle of a negotiation. However, he immediately felt that it was ridiculous. His brain must be damaged. What kind of illusion was this? But after thinking about it carefully, he felt that it was still possible. He had seen the intelligence of the Huahuang sword. Since it could communicate with him, it might be able to communicate with this spear. 2. The Wahuang sword pressed forward step by step, and the god-slaying spear retreated inch by inch. Slowly, it showed a feeling of being forced to the point where it had nowhere to hide. It was like a poor girl being forced by a villain, constantly crying out pitifully, "Don't come over! Don't come over!" On the other side, the Wahuang sword had the face of a villain. It was laughing maniacally and complacently. "Go ahead and scream. It's useless even if you scream yourself hoarse. No one will come to save you." Seeing that the god-slaying spear had been forced into a corner by the Wahuang sword, even Zhuo Xiaoduo could not bear to look at that pitiful look. For every inch that the Wahuang sword advanced, the god-slaying spear retreated an inch. That pitiful look, but it still had to forcefully maintain its self-esteem. There was no need to mention the bitterness in it. "Anyway, I won't leave," the god-slaying spear said heroically. "Your request is absolutely impossible. Just say what you want. I'll lie flat and wait for you. If you want to fight or kill, you're not a real man if you frown." Saying this was basically no different from admitting defeat, and the Wahuang sword had already gained the upper hand. It was feeling so good that even its bones were climaxing. Finally, it had completely suppressed its old rival. It could do whatever it wanted. It could do whatever it wanted. It could do whatever it wanted. It could bully it however it wanted. It could say whatever it wanted. It could mock it however it wanted. It could whip it however it wanted. It really did not even dare to think about such a carefree life. Even when it was up against the god-slaying spear previously, this guy would not be so soft. If it was not careful, it would take him down with it. That temper of his was very explosive. Who would have thought that this guy would actually split out such a side account? And it was even with such a personality. It was too unexpected, too surprising. It was really a blessing from the heavens. Could it be that this guy sent me to pass the time? Afraid they'll be lonely? Kiki, you don't want to leave? You can't leave? If you say you can't leave, then you can't leave? Do you have the final say, or am I the one who has the final say? To put nicely, the Wahuang sword's current attitude was that of a villain intoxicated by success. To put it bluntly, it was like a wolf in a mountain. It was so vivid that even textbooks were not as vivid as this. They were afraid that they would mislead the primary school students. "Tell me, who has the final say?" Tell me, who has the final say between the two of us? You have the final say? Or am I the one who has the final say? Say something. If you don't know how to speak, then fart. Oh, I forgot. You don't know how to fart. Kikik, tell me, do you have the final say? Does it count? Does it count? Ha ha. Hurry up. Why are you pretending to be dead? Do you believe that I won't destroy you with one sword? Answer me. Do you have the final say, or am I the one who has the final say? The Wahuang sword was arrogant. Even the sword's body was a little distorted. It was beaming with joy, as if it was dancing, as if it was jumping. In short, it was so excited that it was a little abnormal. You have the final say. The god-slaying spear, true spirit, was under someone else's roof, so it had no choice but to lower its head. Even though it was extremely wronged, it still did not dare to be angry and had to speak. It truly felt that it was extremely lowly. "Boss, oh boss, why did you throw me here? There's such an old rival here, the #1 bastard in the primitive armament manual." Back then, Her Majesty Empress was so annoyed by it that she threatened to give it away many times. Who would have thought that I would meet it here? I'm about to be bullied to death. Boss, save me, since I have the final say. The Wahuang sword pondered seriously. It was a little wasteful to destroy the spear, true spirit, just like that. I haven't bullied it enough yet, and I haven't had enough fun yet. Therefore, it flew back excitedly and flew in front of Zhuo Xiaoduo. It shook its head and wagged its tail, looking as if it had done a great service. Boss, I've shown my skills and easily subdued that thing. So Xiaoduo opened his eyes wide and started to communicate with it through his divine sense. What do you mean? This thing has already accepted me willingly and no longer has any other intentions. Cough, cough. Because I used to be very famous, these guys are very obedient to me. At this moment, when it saw me, it softened. It respected my suggestion very much. So, I persuaded it to abandon the darkness and join the light. Now, it has the intention to repent and turn over a new leaf. It wants to surrender and join us in order to get our leniency. Boss, do you accept it? The Huahuang's sword looked as if it was asking for credit. Huh? What? Xiaoduo opened his eyes wide. Tell me more about it in detail. He was immediately pleasantly surprised. I'm at my wit's end. How can it accept me? Accept me willingly? Surrender? Join us. That's what happened. The Huahuang's sword began to ramble again. It exposed the origin and identity of the god-slaying spear one by one and introduced it in detail. In the end, it said proudly, I didn't expect that this time there would be a smaller one. Blah, blah, blah. Xiaoduo was shocked. The natal divine weapon of the demon ancestor Rahu, the #1 demon in the world, the root of the chaotic green lotus, the #1 killing weapon in the world. It's that awesome. Xiaoduo sincerely felt that the weapon's origin, identity, and background were too awesome. The sword of Empress Envy immediately felt uncomfortable in her heart. She explained, that guy's just famous for his excessive slaughter. There's nothing else that's impressive about him. He's only ranked 15th in our weapon index. His ranking can be said to be very low. He's just a little brother. What about you? I'm ranked 13th, much higher than him. The Huahuang sword's words were full of pride and self-satisfaction. It raised its status and said, this is mainly because the Empress stood aloof from worldly affairs and rarely fought with others. Naturally, I had fewer opportunities to become famous and dominate the world with 10,000 swords. Otherwise, it's not impossible for me to be ranked in the top 3. Oh, Xiaoduo squinted at it. It's true. Those who are ranked at the top of the armament chart are really nothing special. They're just slightly stronger than their masters. Besides, when they go out to fight, they have more opportunities to show their faces in public. They're just slightly luckier, the Huahuang sword said disdainfully. Are you saying that Her Majesty Empress Hua is actually not strong? I didn't mean that. Boss, don't talk nonsense. The Huahuang sword was anxious. I don't dare to talk nonsense. Xiaoduo's smile became more and more meaningful. If the Huahuang sword had a face, it would have turned red by now. Then tell me, what should I do with this spear? What should I do with it? Boss, you can take it. The sword of Empress Envy came up with an idea. Let's transfer this brat from this girl to you. Then, I'll be in charge of training him at any time. I'll make sure he's obedient and can do whatever position he wants. Chapter 1063. Can this thing be transferred? Transferred to my body? Xiaoduo stared at the Huahuang sword suspiciously. You're not trying to harm me, are you? Isn't it too risky to rashly let such an external thing into my own spirit? I could easily become another Zhan Xuejuan. Now that I've saved Zhan Xuejuan, who will save me in the future? With Zhan Xuejuan as an example, how could Xiaoduo dare to take the risk? It's okay, boss. First, it's not that brave, and second, it's not that capable. The Huahuang sword said slyly, as long as boss takes this thing in with me and training it in the consciousness space every day, it's still very possible to subdue it. So it's just subduing it? Xiaoduo rolled his eyes. What's the use of that? Didn't you just say that this thing's original body is ranked 15th in the armory? Doesn't that mean we have to be on guard against it at all times? Boring. How can it be boring? This is very interesting. Boss, you don't know this, but the situation now is very special. It can be said to be unprecedented. A little bit of a real spirit, or even a real spirit doppelganger, is nothing strange. No matter how strong a real spirit or a real spirit doppelganger is, it has to unconditionally submit to the original body and serve the interests of the original body. But the situation of the real spirit of the soul-devouring spear in our hands is completely different from the usual situation. Its current power is extremely weak, and it can easily turn into ashes. In contrast, its connection with the original body has been completely severed. The other side can't sense its existence at all, or can directly be regarded as annihilated. However, its foundation is the essence of the god-slaying spear's spirit. Who knows how many tens of thousands of years it took to cultivate this little bit of essence. We just have to find a way to completely sever its connection with the god-slaying spear spirit, and it will become an independent weapon spirit. In time, it has the potential to become another complete god-slaying spear. The Huang sword said, it might even be stronger than the god-slaying spear. At most, it can't really fight against the god-slaying spear. After all, even if he was stronger than the god-slaying spear in the future, his origins still came from the god-slaying spear. He was born unable to resist the god-slaying spear and could only allow himself to be devoured by the god-slaying spear. This is a natural suppression, something that can't be helped. Then is it possible that it will devour the god-slaying spear instead? Boss, you're too daring. That's absolutely impossible. It originates from the god-slaying spear, and its fate has already been decided. What's there to talk about a backlash? If you want to destroy the god-slaying spear, you'll have to gather all the treasures derived from the Chaos Lotus Seed. Only then will you be able to contend against the god-slaying spear. That group of treasures will not be described. The Huang sword paused for a moment before muttering. Actually, the god-slaying spear's roots are stronger than ours. It originated from a part of the Chaos treasure, the Chaos Green Lotus. It's just that its contracted master wasn't strong enough. So Xiaoduo chuckled. In other words, if the god-slaying spear's master is strong enough, perhaps it'll be the top divine weapon in the Chaos armament chart that you're talking about. The Huang sword did not refute, which was rare. After a while, he said, that's the theory, but the fate of the contracted master is determined by the heavens. Although the soul-devouring spear's roots are strong, it's a fact that its master is not strong enough. It's a fact that can't be changed. Its ranking in the Chaos armament chart is only 15th behind me. So Xiaoduo did not say anything else. He turned his head and stared at the black spear tip that was the size of a needle tip. It seemed to be trembling pitifully, looking like a coward, but he could not help but twitch his mouth. I really don't believe that this thing can become the top divine weapon. I'm talking about a possibility. The key to the future depends on how you cultivate it, boss. Cough, cough. The Huang sword was going all out in order to recruit a follower. As long as he thought of being able to recruit the god-slaying spear, which was the most ferocious weapon, as a follower, he would be in high spirits all the time. When he thought of being able to beat and scold it at any time in the future, he felt even better. Although it was only a split soul of the god-slaying spear, the Huang sword was already very satisfied. After all, it was the complete god-slaying spear. Even if it was at its peak, it would not be able to suppress it. What was the use of having a higher ranking than it? It would not accept it at all. Of course. The main reason why the Huang sword wanted to facilitate this was to recruit a follower, to show off, and to show off. However, no matter how weak the split soul and true spirit of the god-slaying spear was still a fact that it had invincible potential. In the end, it still depended on Zhuo Xiaoduo's choice and whether he could and was willing to provide a large amount of resources in the future. Zhuo Xiaoduo's choice, the supply of a large amount of resources, the cooperation of the split soul and true spirit, and the training of the two gourds. As long as there was any missing link, the result would still be a delusion, and it would still be useless. Well, there's one more thing. As long as Boss subdues this thing, it will be the key to saving this. This woman, don't be fooled by its cowardly appearance. It seems to be dispirited and dispirited, but in fact, it still has the last bit of strength to resist. Although it is not enough to affect us in any way, it can destroy the woman's soul. Strictly speaking, it has already merged with her soul. Unless it leaves on its own accord, it will be extremely difficult for external forces to remove it. Even if that old man were to make a move, he would need to spend a lot of time. And now, we don't seem to have that much time. The main reason why I proposed this plan was also because of this woman. The Huang sword did not know how to address Zhang Xuejuan at that moment, so he could only address her as this woman. So Xiaoduo suddenly thought of something. Right now, saving Zhang Xuejuan was indeed the most important task at hand. Previously, he had risked his life to save her at all costs. Wasn't it all for the sake of saving her life? Now that they were halfway through the journey, the slightest mistake would result in both sides suffering great losses. He couldn't let his efforts go to waste. Most importantly, if other people were to bear it, not only would they not have so many resources, but their spirit would also not be strong enough to withstand the corrosion of the demonic energy triggered by the spear spirit. It would only be a matter of time before they became the spear spirit's puppet. But it's different for Boss. Not only can he train the toughness of his spirit with the counterattack of the spear spirit, but also, and Jiao can suppress it. The Huang sword finally revealed some of his real intentions. If we were to fight against the spear spirit, not only can we suppress it easily, but we can also teach it a lesson easily. Now that we have such a target, not only can we train our bodies, but we can also train Bai and Jiao's fighting ability. They are still new to the world, and their fighting skills are still immature. We can use this as a training ground. The Huang's sword was exultant. Most importantly, you can enjoy it yourself, right? Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the Huang's sword from the corner of his eyes. He was speechless at this guy's sinister intentions and bad taste. No wonder this guy was given away by Her Majesty Empress Hua. His attitude in dealing with people was really too despicable. To put it bluntly, this guy didn't match my righteous image and honest personality at all. Forget it. When I become stronger, I will give it away as well. I will give it away as soon as possible. Despicable. Yes, listening to him talk about how to teach the god-slaying spear a lesson, it seems to be quite fun and interesting. And that so-called training of the spirit's toughness also seems to be a way to increase one's strength. I just want to train Bai and Jiao to improve myself. I'm not interested in pranking and torturing the god-slaying spear, I just want to watch the show. That's all. All right, so Xiaoduo agreed. Then let it come over. His words made it seem as if he was giving the god-slaying spear a huge advantage. The Huang's sword let out a sword cry and directly flew up. It ordered arrogantly, "You, go over." The god-slaying spear felt wronged. "I can't go over." Puff. The Huang's sword let out a surprised sword cry. Clang, clang, clang. Mine has already become one with this girl's spirit. Once I go out, it will disperse and be annihilated. The god-slaying spear felt wronged, like a little wife who had been bullied but did not stand up for her family. This was not an excuse, but it really could not go out now. The situation was clear now. If it refused to go out, the Huang's sword, which could not achieve its goal, would fly into a rage out of humiliation. It would probably kill it, because the more it delayed, the more it would slowly grow stronger by using this girl's body. This was something the Huang's sword would never allow. But if it went out, it cannot go out. That bald guy opposite it cough. When it came out this time, all its energy had been blasted onto his body. Now, it was going to enter his spirit. How did things turn out like this? Before it surrendered, it had slashed its master. Then what kind of treatment would it receive in the future? The Huang's sword had no choice but to fly back and explain in front of Zhou Xiaoduo. So useless. Zhou Xiaoduo was very dissatisfied. What's the use of having such a useless person? On the other side, the god-slaying spear could not help but feel dejected at I become so weak. You can use the word useless to describe me. Oh, this is really Zhou Xiaoduo looked dissatisfied. He walked over with swaying steps and looked at the god-slaying spear's divided spirit with a scrutinizing look. He said disdainfully, "It's just a little thing the size of a soybean, and it's even a virtual image. What's the value of it?" When the god-slaying spear heard this, it had a bad premonition. Am I really going to perish here today? I finally managed to gain sentience under the guidance of Boss Spear. He could not help but look at the sword of Empress Hua pleadingly. The Huang's sword said, "Boss, although this little thing is small in size, it has quite a lot of potential." When the god-slaying spear's divided spirit heard this, it was instantly moved to tears. But it still stabbed me. It should be that one stab that used up all its energy. So Xiaoduo was very dissatisfied. That's not its full combat power. It's still far from it. The Huang's sword tried its best to put in a good word for the god-slaying spear. Think about it. It's just a little bit of its true spirit. It crossed realms, and its combat power is at most 100th of its original combat power. But the combined power of the 9-9 cat hammer, the Bai, and the Jiu is still inferior. With such potential, once it grows up, it might even be able to fight against a saint. The Wahuang's sword said, "Boss, this little thing is almost the embryo of an innate spiritual treasure. It's an innate spiritual treasure." The god-slaying spear was more and more grateful. Although this sword was very cheap, at critical moments, it was really quite useful. Chapter 1064. Even if the prospects are good, it's only good prospects. Do you think you can afford to raise more little guys? I already have too many little guys here. If I cut your supply, would you be happy? So Xiaoduo looked at him with disdain. The god-slaying spear's spirit looked at the Wahuang sword pleadingly. "It's all up to you, boss. This new boss doesn't seem to like me very much. Boss, just give me some face." The Wahuang sword begged. "Take it. In the future, you can see how much effort it puts in and how much resources it provides. No matter what, it can do some chores. Just take it as raising another kitten or puppy." So Xiaoduo looked troubled. "It's not the same. It's not the same. Raising a kitten or puppy can make me happy and let me play with it. But this thing, the situation is clear now. The demon race's army will definitely return from the starry sky. The main body of the god-slaying spear will naturally appear with it. Little sword, have you thought about this? What if when the time comes and we painstakingly raise a powerful treasure, when the demon ancestor and the god-slaying spear return, this thing will turn around and run away? If it betrays us, who can we reason with? Don't talk about things like spirit binding. At the level of the demon ancestor and the main body of the god-slaying spear, my spirit binding can't stop them. Anyway, I won't believe it." Zhou Xiaoduo's face was full of melancholy. "How can I not guard against this? How can I not think about it? Rather than that, it's better to cut off this thought from the start and save myself the trouble." This time, the chattering Wahuang's sword did not utter a word. Although Xiaoduo had deliberately raised this point, it was the most real problem and could not be avoided. If this problem was not solved, perhaps Xiaoduo really would not accept the god-slaying spear's spirit. Aye. The god-slaying spear's spirit was anxious. "I am willing to surrender. I am willing to promise. I am willing to serve you sincerely. But what you are worried about is not up to me. I promise I won't betray you." The spirit of the god-slaying spear felt that it was at the brink of death. It hurriedly stated, "However, as long as I encounter the demon ancestor and boss spear, whether I betray them or not is not up to me to decide. That kind of suppression is beyond the limits of what I can resist." "Are you forcing boss to kill you?" said sort of Empress Envy coldly. The god-killing spear's soul looked pitiful and said, "I know this is useless, but it is the truth. Actually, what I mean is if we meet Demon Alpha or Big Brother Spear, don't let me go out. Then, everything will be fine. If that day comes, Big Brother Sword, you can go out and take care of it." When the Wahuang sword was called Big Boss Sword, it suddenly felt like it was floating in the air like an immortal, and it was lonely at the top of the world. Suddenly, he felt that when the time came, it would be a piece of cake for him to go up and fight. He could totally do it. It was indeed a small matter. Therefore, it flew back to report. So Xiaoduo frowned. "Does this mean, as long as it doesn't fight Demon Alpha or the god-slaying spear, it will be fine to fight other things?" The Wahuang's sword was stunned. Well, it didn't say that. Could it be that it was playing mind games with Big Brother Sword? Therefore, it flew back to ask. Then, it flew back and said with certainty, "Yes, that's what he meant. It is still the problem of betrayal." So Xiaoduo was worried. "Don't worry about this, Big Brother. This kind of innate spiritual treasure has its own moral integrity. Its words are like the wind, and its words carry weight. As long as it is not caught and its spiritual mark is wiped, the chances of betrayal under normal circumstances is very low. But isn't this one in front of us ready to betray its original owner, the god-slaying spear, and surrender to us?" So Xiaoduo rolled his eyes. "Big Brother, this one is actually still a cub." The sword of Empress Envy said, It's still a long way to go before it can take shape and possess its own views and pride. Perhaps when it becomes strong enough, it won't be impossible for it to look down on the god-killing spear even when it comes face to face. There is such a thing? Of course, the Wahuang sword said proudly. Just like me in the past, I originally thought that the flipping sky seal was very powerful and had a strong foundation. But later on, I no longer took it seriously. Cough, cough. Actually, I still respected it later on, but it is no longer a match for me. Of course, there is no need to take it seriously. So Xiaoduo looked at this guy from the corner of his eyes. He didn't expect this guy to have the temperament of a mountain wolf. He had to be on guard against him in the future. Don't look at how he called the boss now. Who knows if he was calling him a dog in his heart? All right then, I will accept it. Adding another pair of chopsticks is not a big deal to me. So Xiaoduo warned, but you have to be my guarantor. If anything happens in the future, you will have to take responsibility. The god-slaying spear spirit looked at the Wahuang sword pitifully, meaning, Big brother, hurry up and be my guarantor. The Wahuang sword agreed proudly. No problem, no problem. I will guarantee it. So Xiaoduo snorted and nodded his head, reluctantly agreeing to it. The god-slaying spear spirit suddenly felt that it had escaped death. It was so moved that it almost hugged the Wahuang sword and burst into tears. Big brother is so good. He is so heartwarming. He is actually willing to be my guarantor. I will treat Big Brother Sword well in the future and will not let you down. The Wahuang sword looked forthright and patted his chest as he promised. But in his heart, he thought, Big Brother wants me to be his guarantor. It is probably just a show to reassure this guy, so that it will be easier for me to command in the future. Yes, it must be like that. Big Brother is creating an opportunity for me to buy over the spear's heart. The chemistry between Big Brother and I is needless to say. It is awesome. Look at how touched this guy is. As long as I show a little bit of interest, he will be teary-eyed and call me his godfather. The Wahuang sword did not expect that Xiaoduo would be so serious when he vouched for him. In the future, if something really happened to the god-slaying spear, the first one to be pulled out would definitely be the Wahuang sword. The most conservative punishment would be to make the Wahuang sword lose a layer of skin. There was no room for negotiation on this point. It was a pity that the Wahuang sword did not know this at all. He only thought that Big Brother was cooperating with him to subdue his underling. In his heart, he was full of praise for Zhou Xiaoduo's acting skills and was very grateful. This Big Brother is really not bad. At least he knows more about romance than Seventh Brother. With the help of the Wahuang sword and the cooperation of the God-slaying spear's spirit clone, the God-slaying spear spirit clone was separated from Zhang Xuejuan's divine soul without much effort. Then, with the Wahuang sword's witness and suggestion, an extremely strict divine soul contract was signed. Then, this weak little spirit clone of the God-slaying spear became Zhou Xiaoduo's personal property. If he wanted you to go east, you would go east. If he wanted you to go west, you would go west. If he wanted you to beat a dog, you would not scold a chicken. If he wanted you to live, you would live. If he wanted you to die, you would die immediately. The severity of the contract was more than 100 times harsher than a slave contract. The God-slaying spear's spirit clone had not seen much of the world. In order to save its life, what else could it do? It successfully signed the slave contract. The moment it entered Zhou Xiaoduo's divine soul space, the God-slaying spear's spirit clone suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of happiness. Fuck, what kind of place is this? This place is simply a place where immortals live. Obviously, the God-slaying spear's spirit clone had just entered the world and was still lacking in the depth of its words. The beauty of the current atmosphere had already exceeded the upper limit of what it could describe. This vast and boundless sea of vitality. Even the place where the demon ancestor lived was far from being so dense. No, it was far from it. Whether it was the quality, the quantity, or the density, it was a few levels lower. After the spirit clone entered, it instantly felt that the demon ancestor's place was just SOSO. It was not enough to reach the apex. This feeling came suddenly, but it was shocking to the extreme. This sea of vitality was really... Dude, even as the god-slaying spear's spirit clone, although it was inexperienced in the world, it had never seen such a magnificent scene. Mommy, Big Brother Spear, you did not come. If you came, you would probably betray us. It's not that I am not firm that to be able to live in such a treasured place. It seems that signing the contract to sell myself is not a bad thing. Maybe, because I signed the contract, Big Brother will no longer hold any grudges against me and will not be wary of me. I can get more and better benefits. As for freedom, what is that? Is it more important than so many good things? In this world, there are so many strong people. Which of us, the innate spiritual treasures, can obtain freedom? Isn't it the fate of being ordered around by others? The stronger the master, the stronger we are. As for freedom, if we don't have enough strength, why would we want that? Could it be that with freedom, a spiritual treasure like me can surpass a sage? That is absolutely impossible. Therefore, the spirit clone of the god-slaying spear quickly and happily accepted its new identity. It no longer held any grudges and was full of joy. If one were to talk about the more troublesome matter, it would be the useless Xiaoduo's matter of naming the split soul. What should I name it? That was a problem. Everyone knew that the Zhua family, from top to bottom, was bad at naming. The Zhua couple was like that, Zhua Xiaoduo was like that, and even Zhua Xiaoyan was like that. After racking his brains for a long time, Zhua Xiaoduo still could not think of a good name. How about you call it? Zhua Xiaoduo remembered that his three-legged golden crow was the seventh prince of the monster clan. Although it was called Xiao now, it should be called Little Seven. As for Little White, it was obviously Little Eight. Geo, needless to say, and the Huahuang sword seemed to call itself 13. Looking at the spirit clone of the god-slaying spear, Zhua Xiaoduo slapped his thigh and said, "Got it. From now on, your name will be Yin Shirsi." "Thank you, Big Brother, for the name." Yin Shirsi thanked him happily and sighed in his heart. "Damn, I'm a spear with a name now. It's really not easy. Now it's a spear in name, but it's actually a fake." Sigh. Zhua Xiaoduo looked at the fake Yin Shirsi with dissatisfaction and said, "You have to work harder." Yes, I'll work harder." Yin Shirsi vowed, "Boss, don't worry. Although I'm just a water spear now, I'll definitely become a good spear in the future." Chapter 1065. For a moment, Yin Shirsi was both happy and suspicious. His name was a little weird. Since he was called Yin Shirsi, he must be ranked. That meant there must be 13 people before him. But who were they? What was Boss Sword's rank? He must be one of the best, right? Wait a minute. Could it be that Boss Sword has 13 other subordinates, all of whom are stronger than me? That was impossible. 13 primordial spiritual treasures? Yin Shirsi suddenly shuddered. That was impossible. Anyway, he had to keep a low profile. Thinking of his name, Yin Shirsi felt like he was going to be beaten. There were 13 people before him. As the youngest, he would be a punching bag. Come on, I'm ready. I'm ready to face the storm. Don't be happy too early. You might not be able to stay as Shirsi for long. If there are more people who are more useful than you, you might become Yin Shirsi. Of course, if there are more, you might become Yin Shirsi. But if you perform well, you might become Yin Shirsi, Zhua Xiaoduo said leisurely. I'll do my best. Yin Shirsi felt like he had been hit in the head when his prediction was confirmed. He kept bowing and swearing that he would live up to Zhua's recognition. Good. I'll see how you perform in the future. Yin Shirsi was overjoyed to get his name. Besides, he was in a place he had always dreamed of. No, this was a super place he had never dreamed of. He was so happy that he almost flew to heaven. However, in the next moment, his joy turned to sorrow. Yin Shirsi was surrounded by Bai Bai and Jiao. Yin Shirsi was shocked. Sure enough, there were more primordial spiritual treasures than his. And there were two of them at the same time. You too. Hee. Boss. Bai Bai and Jiao didn't look friendly. Their eyes were full of someone is coveting my good stuff as they walked over aggressively. Who is this? Bai, the palm-sized little girl in a white dress, looked disgusted. What's this? Jiao frowned. Isn't he too ugly? He must be a thief. Little White came to a conclusion. I think so too. Gio was fuming. The two little ones looked at the god-killing spear, Ling Yin 14, and their expressions became more and more unkind. The sword spirit of the Huang sword flew in and said, "In the future, we must all live in harmony. We must all listen to Boss and work together to create great achievements." But Huang's sword was Spirit Smoke 14 sword boss, not Bai and Gio's boss. How could he be willing to listen to this guy's nonsensical words? Looking at the cowering, god-slaying spear Spirit Smoke 14, he inexplicably felt that this guy was so wretched. Not to mention, he was filled with an annoying aura. Hence, beat him up, beat him up. The two little guys didn't say anything. They swarmed up, grabbed Smoke 14, and beat him up violently. Smoke 14, who was just happy a moment ago, was on the verge of death and became more and more dispirited. He begged for mercy and called Boss, but Bai Gio didn't show any mercy. Even the last bit of his soul was beaten up violently. Xiaoduo was stunned and hurriedly shouted to stop, but Smoke 14 was only left with the strength to twitch. What's going on? Seeing that they had caused trouble, Bai and Gio hurriedly slipped away. While Longsword coughed and said, "This guy can absorb the vitality to recover. The laurel honey is a life-saving treasure, the essence of the true fire and the jade of astral souls that he usually cultivates. This guy can also absorb." And that, the sword of Empress Enviwa mumbled for a while, then slipped away, because it knew that Xiaoduo would be heartbroken if he lost the true Pishio. And if Xiaoduo was heartbroken, he would find trouble with it, the initiator. Of course, it had to slip away as soon as possible. As for whether this new little brother was dead or alive, how could Master Sword care so much? He didn't care whether he was dead or alive. So Xiaoduo didn't even have the time to feel heartache before he was stunned. Hearing Huang's sword words, he thought to himself, "I've taken in a foodie with a big belly. He can eat anything?" After listening to all this, Xiaoduo realized that there really wasn't anything in his space ring that this god-slaying spear couldn't eat. What a good appetite! Xiaoduo sighed and didn't want to go overboard. He threw 2 pieces of essence of the true fire over and dripped a drop of laurel honey on it. His heart ached so much that it bled, because he vaguely felt that he had been cheated. Is what Xiaoduo thought for a while, and threw over all the mid-grade and low-grade jade of astral souls that he didn't need now, as well as some high-grade jade of astral souls. They piled up into a mountain. Yes, it was a mountain, not a small mountain. Then, he pulled over a part of the Sea of Vitality and built a special jade mountain of astral souls. Sure, Sheng. Sigh. Even if you're a foodie, you have to take it easy. This jade mountain is yours, but you have to eat sparingly. Xiaoduo felt melancholy. My resources are limited, and I'm so poor. Everyone in my family is a big eater. How can I afford to feed them? I'm so bitter, melancholy, and depressed. Thank you, boss. Yin Shishing's flattering voice came from his divine soul. There's so many good things. Roar. Bliss. Don't give me that. Hurry up and cultivate well. Becoming stronger is the most important thing. Your boss, am very poor and miserable right now. I'm waiting for you to quickly come over and help me. Okay. Yin Shishing agreed and blended into the Jade Mountain. He went to cultivate happily. I'm rich. I'm rich now. The moment he took out a mountain, it was filled with vitality and was completely constructed from star soul jade. Was this considered poor? Is boss being too humble, or am I too inexperienced? Whatever, I have to cultivate quickly and become stronger. So Xiaoduo turned back to Zhang Xuejuan and found that she was still lying there quietly. There were no signs of her waking up. So Xiaoduo didn't know what was going on. He called Huang's sword over for interrogation. Didn't you say that she'll be fine after the spear is gone? Why isn't she awake yet? Boss, don't be impatient. This woman's soul is damaged. How could she wake up so quickly? It's only because you gave her the laurel honey that her cultivation is incomplete. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to wake up. The sword of Empress Enviwa was speechless. Just tell me how long it'll take for her to wake up. 1 year, 2 years. After all, The god-killing spear entered her body directly. She's severely injured. She needs to become stronger to get through it. However, boss, after this incident, her temperament might change drastically, Hua Huang's sword reminded him. What do you mean? After all, she is the physical body that the god-killing spear once stayed in. Moreover, her natural endowment is that of a chosen host body. After experiencing the influence of the purest devil chi, a stubborn attribute has already formed in her bones. In the future, perhaps in terms of killing, in battle, and so on, she will be more explosive. Is there any danger to her life? Danger to her life? Definitely not. A quarter of the laurel honey is enough to make up for the damage to her divine soul. That's good. In Zhuo Xiaoduo's opinion, being paranoid was not a problem at all. There were too many people who were stronger than her. If she really went crazy, she could just beat them to the ground and throw them to Xiangcheng. Zhan Xuejuan's foundation was far superior to ordinary people. She could be said to be perfect. In the future, she could ask Xiangcheng to be more attentive to her. She's a young woman after all. It's easy for love to get to her head. I believe that the damage to her divine soul won't be too big of a problem. I'll just sleep for a while more. I was worried that her sudden awakening would expose the secret of my annihilation tower. Now that she's asleep, it's just right for me to act. But I still can't get out now. That old man is probably still waiting outside. I've been in the annihilation tower for less than a day. I can't get out now. Since I can't get out, I'll just continue to cultivate. Zhuo Xiaoduo grabbed a pile of real fire essence and quickly started to cultivate. Xiao was cultivating. She was seeing results recently. The Hua Huang sword, which had swallowed real fire essence before, was recovering faster than expected. Little White and Little Geo were also working hard to cultivate. The two of them were clearly determined not to let this wretched newcomer catch up to them. They would always be much stronger than one, two, or three of them. The boundless vitality in the Tower of Annihilation allowed the two of them to cultivate at an unprecedented rate. Yin Shursi was also cultivating diligently. He had just arrived in a new environment with such an excellent atmosphere. Naturally, he knew that he should make use of this God-given opportunity to become stronger. At the very least, when he went out or stayed in here, he could not be beaten up every day. He had to have a chance to fight back. At the very least, he had to have the confidence to not be beaten to death. In the entire space of the Annihilation Tower, the busiest person was Xiaolong. She was busy at all times, constantly integrating the spiritual veins and making sure that every inch of the space was taken care of. She did not miss out on anything. She was really picking up and filling in the gaps every moment. In the future, I might be the true dragon who created the world. So, in this world, I must be cautious and conscientious from now on. I can't afford to make any mistakes. The time passed slowly. Although Zhuo Xiaoduo had just broken through to the returnance level, his actual cultivation was naturally just at the returnance level. However, his cultivation had increased by more than a few times compared to when he was at the God-reigning level. His combat strength was also much stronger. It was as if he was doing somersaults over and over again. This was the fundamental reason why he could not be at a disadvantage when facing the peak of the Skysoar realm cultivators of the Demon Clan. However, this strength was far from what Zhuo Xiaoduo had expected. In his opinion, his combat strength should have increased by at least 10 times after he had broken through to such a big realm. When he reached the peak of the returnance level and suppressed it for more than 50 times, he should be at least 100 times stronger than when he was at the peak of the God-reigning level. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo was really dissatisfied with his current progress. How could he suppress Nian Mao with such a small improvement in strength? He originally had some hope, but now 90% of his hope had been shattered. Zhuo Xiaoduo was a little depressed. Now it seemed that the day when he and Nian Mao consummated their marriage and the day when he could do whatever he wanted was still far away. Chapter 1066. Of course, Zhuo Xiaoduo could also feel that there were other benefits as he broke through to the returning profound realm. For example, his control and understanding of his own spirit had taken a big step forward. That feeling was as if a layer of window paper had suddenly been poked open in his mind. His mind was unprecedentedly clear, and everything was clear. His own spirit was so clear and within reach. He could even control and direct it. Compared to before, when he could only sense the existence of the spirit, he could use the power of the spirit to form pressure and subdue the enemy without fighting. It was a completely different concept. Previously, when he first came into contact with the spirit and released the pressure of the spirit, he felt that he was very awesome and very sharp. All I did was stand there, and the other party was scared to death. Wasn't that awesome? But now it seemed that the way he did it was not stupid, but at least a little low. He clearly understood the existence of the spirit. Although it existed because of him and was one with his life, they were connected. But on a deeper level, he felt that the spirit was not completely dependent on his life. It was an existence on a deeper level. Yes, it was the kind that could come out to fight alone. With the power of the spirit alone, it could form an independent, even a fighting force that was independent of his life. So, the ghosts in the ghost stories are actually the spirit, or a form of expression of the spirit. Xiaoduo was shocked by his own thoughts. He was a little frightened and secretly looked around. Damn, I've been walking too unlucky recently. I'm really drunk. How could I link my spirit with a ghost? What am I thinking? The key now is still fighting strength. I need to further improve my fighting strength. Xiaoduo refocused his cultivation on the improvement of his cultivation. He worked hard to absorb the essence of the real fire in his hands. He quickly absorbed it and the huge amount of vitality in the space. He gradually improved his cultivation bit by bit. But as he cultivated, he sighed. Unknowingly, I've already adopted so many little babies. The Huahuang sword was naturally a big eater who did not abstain from meat and vegetables. Moreover, he was the most mischievous. However, this gentleman still had a bit of moral integrity. He was aware of his status, so he did not stuff himself with food and was somewhat restrained. Xiao, on the other hand, was eating and not eating. The harvest from Zhu Wu's land of inheritance was enough to last it for a long time. Bai Bai and Jio were very selective when it came to eating. If they didn't like anything, they would simply not eat it. They were the most reserved. But now, there came another one that was as unrestrained as the Huahuang sword. Looking at the god-killing spear's spirit smoke 14th's extremely vicious appearance, it simply wished it could eat even the dirt. It was also completely lacking in moral integrity. Who knew how long that jade mountain could last? You're still a half-grown brat, but you're eating my penniless. I'm raising 5 of you. If we include Xiaolong, that would be 6. So Xiaoduo was melancholy. Ordinary people are already struggling to raise 1 child and have to scrimp and save. Now, I'm raising 6 babies. The Huahuang sword looks mature and speaks arrogantly, but in reality, his strength is no different from a baby. Sigh, I'm really unlucky. After some calculations, Xiaoduo's sorrow came from the bottom of his heart, and he found it difficult to control himself. Not only was there a lot of family pressure and many babies, the problem was that if he was an unmarried father, it would be fine. But now the problem was, he was an unmarried mother. What the fuck? Who could he reason with? Go all out. Go all out. So Xiaoduo wantonly squandered. The top-grade jade of astral souls, the top-grade fire essence, and many top-grade cultivation materials were all used without stinginess. Yes, this method was not squandering or extravagance, but investment. Only by becoming stronger as soon as possible could he seize more resources and greater benefits. Yes, this was the official statement. In fact, Xiaoduo always had a sense of crisis. These little ones will not be polite to me at all. If there are good things, they will start to eat the best. If they are not filial in the future, I'm afraid I will have to eat dirt as their mother. Therefore, while I can still snatch from them, I have to quickly pick the best things to use. There was no sun or moon in the tower, and the years were unknown. Outside, Lei Changtian was hiding high in the sky, constantly waiting near the place where Xiaoduo disappeared. He had waited for 3 days, but that kid still did not show up. He did not even try to probe the situation. He can keep his composure. Originally, With Lei Changtian's temperament and cultivation, not to mention waiting for 3 days, even if it was 3 months or 3 years, his heart would be as still as water. But now, smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices, and he was burning with impatience. But he was helpless. He was very clear that if he were to put himself in Zhuo Xiaoduo's shoes, he would probably be able to keep his composure better than Zhuo Xiaoduo. After all, it was a matter of life and death. He would not want to be safe. There was a strong enemy outside, and he was so weak that he could be blown to death by the enemy's breath. No matter how careful he was, it would not be too much. But Lei Changtian had other concerns. What should I do if you don't come out? It has been a long time since we lost contact with you. Even your parents might already know this. If you come out quickly, I will feel better. If you don't come out, it will really kill me. In fact, the news of Zhuo Xiaoduo's disappearance as time went on, it was indeed impossible to hide it. Feng Hai. Li Qinglong strictly ordered everyone to concentrate on cultivation and not go out. They must not be distracted. Although it was not forbidden to practice, it was strictly forbidden to look for Zhuo. This is an emergency. Before we get accurate information, no one is allowed to act rashly. If we act rashly, it will only cause the opposite effect. Besides, young, impulsive, and easily misled by people with ulterior motives. Since this matter has been taken over by the higher-ups, their power is much stronger than ours. What we should do now is either to wait for Zhuo to come back peacefully, or to concentrate on cultivation and improve ourselves as much as possible. Accumulate strength and prepare to avenge Zhuo. Li Qinglong's face was very ugly. His eyes were unprecedentedly stern, and his voice was full of killing intent and solemnity. No one is allowed to act rashly. Gao Qiao, here, pay close attention to the school. See if there are any strange words being said, or if there are suddenly more people who have close connections with the outside world. Okay, Pai Bao, I suggest that you use the next period of time to go out and practice. Your assassination and archery skills are difficult to practice in the school. Go out, accept missions, and kill people. Xiang Chong, you go too. At this time, we can't take care of your wife. According to the situation you described, let alone us, even if Zhuo was still here, it would still be difficult for him to do anything. If you still immerse yourself in this matter and suffer for a few more days, you will fall behind. No matter how much you cry, you will not be able to bring your wife back. Now get out of here. If you can't concentrate on cultivation, go out and practice and kill people. Xiang Bing, you go too. Zhen Pia Piao, why are you wiping your tears over there? Can your tears bring Zhuo back? If you can't cultivate, go out and practice. If Zhuo can come back alive, I won't say anything. But if something bad happens to him, it's useless even if you cry to death. Those who can't concentrate on cultivation, go out and practice and fight. This time, there will be no rescue. There will be no positioning. Go out. That's the case for everyone. Go out and accept missions or find a wasteland to practice. Remember, there will be no rescue. If you die outside, you die outside. If you don't die, come back. Yu Yin you go on foot to find Dragon Soul High Marshal and Li Zhongming. Leave today. Along the way, you are not allowed to rely on any means of transportation or external help. With your own strength, go to Dragon Soul High Marshal. All of you get out. Now, immediately. Li Qinglong suppressed his temper and chased everyone away. Wen Xingtian and Yi Changqing both had some objections to Li Qinglong's decision. They felt that this method was too risky and too extreme. With so many geniuses, it would be a pity if they died outside. However, Li Qinglong stubbornly persisted in his views. Time and tide wait for no man. Li Qinglong was very determined. In order to reduce the sacrifices in the future, we need to grow up in the shortest time possible. Even if there are sacrifices, we will not hesitate. When Xingtian and Yi Changqing could only agree. After sending everyone out, Li Qinglong quickly returned to the villa and quietly stayed for a while. Then he went to the second floor and went to Zhuo Xiaoduo's room. He sat quietly in Zhuo Xiaoduo's bedroom and did not move for a long time. "Boss, are you still alive? Or are you dead?" Li Qinglong murmured. His eyes, which had always been wise and steady, were filled with helplessness. As the number 2 of the team, if the boss died, the number 2 would naturally be promoted. This was a good thing for many people, but Li Chenglong had never thought of being the boss. Why is number 2 only number 2? It's because I don't have the ability to be number 1 that I can be number 2. If I wanted to be the boss from the beginning, why did I rely on Zhua from the beginning? Isn't it better to start from the beginning than to wait for the position? If Zhua is really not here, this team will fall apart. Li Chenglong clearly understood this point. A group of arrogant and unruly geniuses would only submit to one boss. Come back quickly. On the other side, the king of Zhuolu was using an almost crazy attitude. With Fenghai City as the source, he gradually swept across the country, all the way to the border of the continent. Especially the Dao League, because of repeated probing, there were conflicts. The Dao League had raised serious protests several times. But the king of Zhuolu did not care at all. He just said firmly to the other side, "Do you want to fight? Come. You don't want to fight? Move aside. Get lost." At this moment, the continent of astral souls showed unprecedented toughness. However, there was still no news about Zhuo, whether good or bad. The king of Zhuolu and the heavenly king of the right were getting more and more anxious. Like ants on a hot pan, they were about to lose control of the madness in their hearts. The idea that no news was good news was no longer enough to appease the two of them, because the two of them were very clear. In this world, there were simply too many ways to make a person disappear without a trace. The longer they delayed, the slimmer the chances of Zhua Xiaoduo's survival. Chapter 1067. For a genius like Zhua Xiaoduo, if he was secretly captured, the other party would never keep him alive to interrogate or threaten him. It was as good as digging his own grave. No matter what, it was best to kill him immediately, burn his bones and scatter his ashes, and completely erase all traces of him. That was the best choice. Putting himself in her shoes, he would have done the same if he were in her shoes. No news was good news. It might apply to other people, but when it came to Zhua Xiaoduo, the more there was no news, the worse it was. Keep investigating. Continue to intensify the investigation. The two heavenly kings stared at each other and saw the blood in each other's eyes. This time, they were afraid that something big was going to happen. Maybe the sky was going to fall. Dad sent a message. Yudong Tian said dryly, "Uncle Zhua and Aunts were going to come out of their seclusion in 1 or 2 days at most. If not tonight, it will be tomorrow morning. Come out of their seclusion in perfect condition." The king of Zhuolu's face twitched. This was supposed to be the best news. If they had heard this before, they would have jumped for joy and cheered. Finally, they had a backbone. Finally, they were going to come out of their seclusion. Come out of their seclusion in perfect condition. That was great. My star spirit continent has finally produced a true pillar that can be called invincible. From now on, our star spirit continent is no longer the weakest among the 3 continents. Perhaps because of the years of war, our people are all iron-blooded. Combined with the wisdom of our generals and the sacrifice of our soldiers, we have become the most powerful one. How could it not be a pleasant surprise? How could it not be a joyous occasion? However, this news made their hearts feel heavy and even a little uncomfortable. If Uncle Zhua and Aunt Zhua received the news that their most beloved son had disappeared, his whereabouts were unknown. In that case, so what if his cultivation was exceedingly high? If they didn't have a child before, they might not have done anything. But now that they had a child and lost him, it would be an unprecedented blow to their state of mind. No one could predict what would happen after coming out of their seclusion in perfect condition. The only thing they could be sure of was, something big is going to happen. Yudong Tian sighed. Yun Zhonghu sighed. That's right, something big was about to happen. Perhaps it was something big that would shake the 3 continents. No, it would fall on the Zhua couple. Using the word shake was too shallow. At the very least, it had to be something that would shake the foundations of the 3 continents. If the news of Zhou Xiaoduo's death was confirmed, at least one thing could be foreseen. the Feng and Yin families, who had participated in the assassination of Zhuo would definitely be wiped out. Even the two patriarchs of Wind and Cloud would have to be buried with him. Whoever dared to stop him would be buried with him. Even the remaining 5 swords of the Tao League and the number 1 Taoist Thunder, might not be an exception. Uncle Zhuo and Aunt Zhuo had perfectly broken through their bottleneck. Once again, they had transcended the mortal world and looked down on the common people. As for the third prince, who had once played tricks on Whitehead Mountain, not only was there no chance of luck, but he would also bring disaster to the royal family. For mighty figures like Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding, who had experienced many changes in the imperial court, the deterrence and pressure of the secular imperial power on them was not only zero, it was negative. I've watched the rise and fall of the dynasty for so many generations, and now you're telling me that the imperial power is supreme? Fuck you. When I shocked the world, the ancestors of the royal family were not even liquid. All of you die. This was the most direct and simple way to respond. No one would stand up for the royal family, and no one would dare to stand up for the royal family. Just wait for the thunder from the 9th heaven and the world to be turned upside down. Yu Dongtian's face was gloomy. Yun Zhonghu squatted on the ground and covered his face with his hands. He was feeling terrible for his master and mistress. A perfect breakthrough to become an invincible expert. This was supposed to be a joyous occasion. However, when he came out filled with ecstasy and excitement, he was told that his son was gone. What kind of disappointment was that? This was probably the feeling of falling from heaven to hell all of a sudden. Moreover, it was like falling from heaven right after reaching heaven. There was no process in between at all. Losing their only child. How painful was this for a couple? Yin Zhonghu wished that he was the one who died. As long as his master and mistress did not have to bear the pain of losing their son, it would be better for him to die than for his junior brother to die. We've sent all the images to the Sun Moon Pass. Every high-ranking officer has a copy. Yu Dongtian said, I hope we can find something there. Yin Zhonghu did not say anything, as if he did not hear anything. It was possible in any direction, but it was impossible in the direction of the Sun Moon Pass. That was the headquarters of the Astral Souls. Most of the Astral Souls experts were gathered there. No matter how stupid the enemy was, it was impossible for them to capture Zhuo from there. Shangjing. Qin Fangyang excitedly grabbed his phone and called Zhuo. He was very excited. After working hard for so long and waiting for so long, he finally received a confirmed piece of news. The signs of the dragons seizing the veins had suddenly appeared this year. However, it was strictly controlled after that. All the Astral Souls geniuses, the best of the best, including the people from the various hidden sects, would enter the ancestral dragon's vein. The dragon vein energy that had been cultivated for 20 years would suddenly erupt one day in the near future. Then, these dragon veins energy would randomly find their own owners and merge with them to increase their life force. That was the gathering of the dragon veins of the entire continent. And the owner who received the dragon veins would have his entire foundation, Astral Souls, aptitude, and even comprehension, providence, and luck improved qualitatively. This was the final step of cultivating a genius and transforming them. The human prodigies who had gone through the dragon veins would grow to the point where they could hold their own in the shortest time possible. This result caused the dragons seizing the veins to become the lifeline of the entire continent. It also involved the true secret of the dragon veins. Therefore, it was invisibly affected and controlled by a force. No one knew, and no one could calculate the exact time when the dragons seizing the veins would happen. Only when the dragon veins matured and emitted a certain aura on their own would people know that such a great thing had happened this year. There was no pattern to the time. Sometimes, it might not even appear once in 100 or 200 years. Sometimes, it would appear twice in 3 years. There was no pattern at all. There was no cultivation limit to entering the dragons, seizing the veins, only age. One cannot be more than 36 years old. Other than that, there were no restrictions. There was even no limit to the number of people. Even if 10,000 or 100,000 people entered at once, it did not matter. However, the total number of dragon veins was limited. If it really fell on 100,000 people, it would not be an exaggeration to say that it had no effect at all. In other words, the fewer people who entered, the better. In the past, the minimum number of people was 12. When the number was at its peak, 108 people had entered. However, at that time, those 108 people had mediocre achievements. None of them had great achievements. However, there would still be countless people waiting every year. They waited bitterly, hoping that the ancestral dragon veins would appear again. Then, according to this sign, they would determine how many people could enter. Of course, there were some individual factors in this. For example, even if you were the continent's #1 genius, you would not know about this at all, and there would be no one to recommend you. Then, you would not be able to enter. Therefore, there was room for manipulation in this aspect. And such manipulation. Naturally, no one dared to talk about it openly. Most of the people in the empire did not know about this. And those who knew about this might not be qualified or suitable. Even if they were qualified and suitable, they would not know the exact time. This was the reason why this matter was so disgusting. Because even if it was only a few hours before telling you, you would not be able to make it in time. The reason why Qin Fanyang did everything he could to enter the ancestral dragon martial school was because of this. Every time such a good thing fell on the students of the ancestral dragon martial school. As the saying goes, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. The reason why the ancestral dragon martial school was the top of the 3 martial schools was also because of this. Even if the other martial school students had the same aptitude and talent as the ancestral dragon martial school students, the ancestral dragon martial school students had a greater chance of getting this opportunity. No one could say anything about this, because this was the privilege of the ancestral dragon martial school. Other than the absolute upper echelons who could squeeze people in, the others could forget about it. And Qin Fanyang had been lying low for this period of time, just for this opportunity. He knew that Yuan Yue had always been looking forward to this opportunity. This was the real opportunity for a fish to leap over the dragon's gate. For the poor students, Qin Fanyang's biggest hope was to get Zhou Xiaoduo, Li Chenglong, and the others into the dragon's seize the veins. If there was only one hope, then no matter what, he had to get Zhou Xiaoduo in. Entering the dragons seize the veins meant that he would definitely be one of the upper echelons in the future. Letting the students of the Phoenix City Second High School enter the dragons seize the veins. This was Yuan Yue's biggest hope and wish. Since it was Yuan Yue's wish, Qin Fanyang had to fulfill this wish at all costs. From the hands of the upper echelons, from the dense, unspoken rules, he had to pull out this quota. Now, he finally got this news. All the hard work, all the planning, all the effort. To get this news, everything is worth it. Qin Fanyang was full of joy. Qian, after I finish this, I will resign from the ancestral dragon martial school and return to Phoenix City, slowly waiting for your appearance. Maybe you won't appear. Maybe I won't find you again in this life. But I will protect the Phoenix City Second High School and protect your hard work well. I will fulfill all your wishes. I will let you, whether it's Lu Qian or Yuan Yue, know that you didn't love the wrong man. As long as it's your matter, as long as it's something you want to do, I will do it for you. Qin Fanyang's eyes were shining. When I see you again, I will tell you with a clear conscience that I have fulfilled your wish. The groundwork has been laid. The demon race, the Wu people, the Dao League, the Spirit race, the Western race, the Ancient Almighty, the Wu people's future, and countless other future trajectories have been laid out. From now on, there is no need to lay out the groundwork. The plot will be accelerated all the way to the end. If there are some future plots that you don't understand, you can come back and read this part of the Umno Alliance. Chapter 1068. The so-called confirmation of the news was not easy. Qin Fanyang was taking a huge risk. This was because the root of this matter had always been the biggest dark area in the entire Yanwu Empire. The true upper echelons, such as the left and right heavenly kings and the 4 great generals, were not interested in this dragons fighting for heritage. In the eyes of the true powerhouses, the so-called dragons fighting for heritage was far from a great opportunity. Rashly getting involved would be demeaning themselves. There were many family disciples who were related to them studying in the ancestral Dragon High School. When encountering this opportunity, one's results would speak for themselves. If one's strength was not as good as others, wouldn't it be normal for them to not have a chance? On the other hand, if there were children in these families who were usually among the top in the ancestral Dragon High School, then when this opportunity came, there would definitely be a place for them. However, this kind of opportunity that the upper echelons looked down on and the lower echelons could not come into contact with or even covet gradually formed a huge circle of benefits over time. Ordinary commoners had outstanding talents and cultivation strength that far surpassed their peers. They were the strongest candidates to compete for the dragons fighting for heritage. However, at some point in time, they would suddenly be injured or their cultivation realm would slip. This kind of thing was common. No matter how unwilling they would miss out on this opportunity. After all, the duration of the dragons fighting for heritage was short. By the time they recovered, this matter would have already passed. What could they do? The path of cultivation was full of thorns. It was difficult for anyone to have a smooth journey. There were always ups and downs. It was very common for one's cultivation to not be smooth or get injured during training. The more specific dark areas would not be described one by one. In short, it was just one sentence. Qin Fangyang wanted to take a piece of the cake of benefits for his students like Zhuo Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong. It was not easy. Therefore, when Qin Fangyang knew that this year was the year of the dragons fighting for heritage, he immediately planned in secret. However, he called Zhuo Xiaoduo many times, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not get through. No one answered. Qin Fangyang was very puzzled about this. However, he did not dare to call Yi Changqing, Wen Xingtian, and the others. Firstly, he was afraid that the news would be leaked. Secondly, he had not interacted much with Yi Changqing and the others. It was hard for him to be certain that these two old fellows would not have any ulterior motives. For example, after receiving the news, they could use their own connections to insert their own children into the organization. Yi Changqing and Wen Xingtian were the higher-ups of martial ancestor Gaowu. Who knew if they were in cahoots with martial ancestor Gaowu? As long as there was an exchange of benefits, Zhuo Xiaoduo's fortuitous opportunity would immediately fail. As far as Qin Fang knew, this was a very normal thing. However, Qin Fangyang did not contact Li Chenglong because he had thought about it over and over again. Regarding the dragons fighting for heritage, Qin Fang had placed his greatest hopes on Zhuo Xiaoduo. It was even to the extent that it could be said that allowing one person to obtain the fortuitous encounter of a group of dragons seizing the vein was already the limit. If he rashly told Li Chenglong about this matter, then wouldn't he be asking for trouble and causing trouble or even hostility for no reason? If Li Chenglong had the intention to rebel because of this, then it would only cause the situation to escalate out of control. Yes, during this period of time, Qin Fangyang had collected too many information related to the dragons fighting for heritage. Naturally, he had come into contact with many past events that happened because of benefits, selfish desires, and various reasons. This matter also involved He Yuanyue's dying wish, causing him to be unusually sensitive. His various actions were very different from the past, but he cared too much. He was suspicious of everyone and could not trust anyone. He was worried about his gains and losses. Qin Fangyang thought about it over and over again and decided to call Zhuo Xiaoyan. Qin Fangyang could be suspicious of anyone, but he definitely would not suspect Zhuo Xiaoyan. Zhuo Xiaoyan would never harm Zhuo Xiaoduo, let alone snatch away Zhuo Xiaoduo's opportunity. Furthermore, Zhuo Xiaoyan was a girl and also belonged to the Phoenix bloodline. There was no point in joining the dragons fighting for heritage. Qin Fangyang had considered all aspects thoroughly. Compared to Zhuo Xiaoduo, who could not be contacted, Qin Fangyang only called Zhuo Xiaoyan twice before contacting her. Qin Fangyang immediately asked about Zhuo Xiaoduo's movements. From Zhuo Xiaoyan, he found out that Zhuo was participating in some kind of training and would not be seen for a few months. Qin Fanyang felt that it was strange. Zhuo had just broken through and should be consolidating his foundation. Why would he suddenly participate in some kind of training? However, Qin Fanyang did not think too much about it. After all, Zhuo Xiaoyan vaguely told him that Zhuo's training had been specially informed by a super important person. At that moment, Qin Fanyang excitedly told Zhuo Xiaoyan, "There's a piece of great news about Zhuo's future." Then, he made an appointment to meet Zhuo Xiaoyan. What Qin Fanyang did not know was that the super important person, Bai Yunduo, was nearby. She had heard their conversation. The reason why she chose to monitor them was to be safe. She was afraid that Qin Fanyang would say too much and alert Zhuo Xiaoyan. That night, Qin Fanyang secretly went to Zhuo Xiaoyan's residence and talked about the dragons fighting for heritage. When Zhuo Xiaoyan heard about this opportunity, she was naturally very interested. It was not that Zhuo Xiaoyan was short-sighted or that the Nine Heavens Pavilion did not tell her about this opportunity. It was because she knew that Zhuo's Tower of Annihilation needed the dragon bloodline. This opportunity might be a dispensable opportunity for others, but for Zhuo, it might be a great opportunity to take a big step forward. Therefore, she made an agreement with Qin Fanyang that she would inform Zhuo once the specific time was confirmed. She was even thinking that she could make use of her connections with the higher-ups of the Nine Heavens Pavilion to help Zhuo to ensure that he would get a place. Zhuo Xiaoyan was really excited at this moment. She was sure that this dragon's fighting for heritage would be very beneficial to Zhuo. She definitely could not miss it. Qin Fanyang was also very excited. Only Baiyun Fairy, who was secretly eavesdropping on them, did not want to object to this dragon's fighting for heritage, even though Baiyun Duo did not like the idea of dragons fighting for heritage. This was an opportunity for Zhuo. Anyway, to her, she only needed to slightly influence this matter to ensure that Zhuo would be able to enter smoothly. It was really not a big deal. After Qin Fanyang and Zhuo Xiaoyan made an agreement, they left secretly. Qin Fanyang was really a little paranoid now. Before he left, he repeatedly reminded Zhuo Xiaoyan not to spread the news before the quota was confirmed, so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. Zhuo Xiaoyan naturally agreed wholeheartedly and promised. In the next 2 to 3 days, Qin Fanyang did not come. He only made 2 calls to say that everything was going smoothly and that there were no accidents. Then, he made an agreement with Zhuo Xiaoyan that he had some clues now and asked her to meet tomorrow night to pass the message. After all, electronic communication devices were too unsafe. Zhuo Xiaoyan did not dare to delay when she received the message. The next day, she ended her cultivation early and went to the appointed place to wait for Qin Fanyang's arrival. Zhuo Xiaoyan was very happy when she heard from Qin Fanyang that there was great progress in the matter. She felt that this was another great opportunity for her to improve greatly. In order to thank Qin Fanyang for his efforts and contributions, she specially bought the best delicacies and took out a few jars of truly priceless spirit wine from her collection to thank Qin Fanyang. However, on this day, Zhuo Xiaoyan waited until the sky was completely dark, but Qin Fanyang did not appear. Until 8:30 p.m., Zhuo Xiaoyan finally could not help but call Qin Fanyang. However, the phone showed that he could not get through temporarily. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoyan faintly felt that something was wrong. Qin Fanyang was not a person who did not give instructions. Even if there was an unexpected change, he should have taken the time to inform her. She forced herself to wait patiently for another half an hour. When she called again, he still could not get through. Zhuo Xiaoyan changed her mind and no longer hesitated. She flew up and flew to Ancestral Dragon High School to inquire about Qin Fanyang. However, the news that Zhuo Xiaoyan received was that Qin Fanyang had not come to work since the Spring Festival. No one in the entire Ancestral Dragon High School knew where Teacher Qin had gone and what his current whereabouts were. Zhuo Xiaoyan's heart suddenly thumped. Qin Fanyang had been in contact with her these days. He repeatedly mentioned that he was at Ancestral Dragon High School, did not leave during the Spring Festival. Ancestral Dragon High School gave her the information that he had not come to work since the Spring Festival. Where did this come from? However, Zhuo Xiaoyan investigated many people in Ancestral Dragon High School, including the higher-ups of Ancestral Dragon High School. The news that she received was shockingly consistent. She did not see him. She did not know where he had gone. She had not seen him for a long time. The matters related to Qin Fangyang before the Spring Festival were all vivid in her mind and could be investigated. However, since the Spring Festival, it was as if an invisible hand had erased all traces of Qin Fangyang's existence. This meant that Qin Fangyang had disappeared. Zhuo Xiaoyan keenly sensed that something was wrong. Moreover, the force behind all this was probably extremely powerful. She did not dare to be careless. She quietly left Ancestral Dragon High School. After returning, she immediately told Bai Yunduo about this matter and asked Bai Yunduo to find Qin Fangyang's whereabouts. Bai Yunduo did not think much of it at first. She only thought that Qin Fangyang had been schemed against because he had touched the interests of the dragons fighting for the heritage. However, it was at most a temporary restraint for Qin Fangyang. It should not have harmed his life. Bai Yunduo even thought of taking advantage of the situation. Zhuo Xiaoduo's whereabouts were unknown. She might not be able to catch up with the dragons fighting for the heritage. Perhaps she could use Qin Fangyang's disappearance to put this matter aside. However, after she used her own power to investigate thoroughly, she was shocked to find that Qin Fangyang's movements during this period of time did exist. However, they appeared to be in an inexplicable state of intermittent movements. He suddenly appeared in the east and suddenly in the west, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Although he rarely appeared in Ancestral Dragon High School, it could not be said that he had not worked since the Spring Festival. However, the reality was that all traces could not be found. Everyone's statements were exactly the same. Even when Bai Yunduo ordered a thorough investigation, she still found almost nothing. Bai Yunduo patrolled the world all year round. Naturally, she had her own team. After ordering a thorough investigation this time, she came to a conclusion that made Bai Yunduo dumbfounded. All the clues were cut off, and there was no possibility of further investigation. Among them, more than 30 students and 13 teachers of Ancestral Dragon High School were involved. The same clues were erased. It had disappeared completely. It was as if these people had never appeared in the world. What's more, many people around Qin Fangyang's dormitory also mysteriously disappeared. It was as if there was really a big hand that was gradually erasing all traces of Qin Fangyang in this world with the passage of time. Under such circumstances, even if Bai Yunduo's cultivation was very high, her actions were still one step slower. This one-step difference made her fall behind step by step. There was no progress at all. Even as time went by, all traces related to Qin Fangyang were being erased until there was no trace left. After confirming this situation, Bai Yunduo's scalp was about to explode. She really did not expect that under her order to investigate thoroughly, there would be less and less information. Such a bizarre and unforeseen event had actually occurred to him. It was simply inconceivable. However, this was the reality. Under the current situation, unless she used thunderous means and investigated on a large scale without regard for the consequences. Otherwise, there was no target to target at all. Bai Yunduo's heart suddenly sank. With her intuition, which had been experienced for many years, she understood that something big was about to happen. Zhuo Xiaoduo's unknown life and death was already enough to set off stormy waves and turn the world upside down. Now, Zhuo Xiaoduo's first teacher, the teacher that Zhuo Xiaoduo valued the most besides his family, Qin Fangyang, was also missing. Bai Yunduo's heart began to tremble. Perhaps in the eyes of the so-called big shots, the disappearance of a high school teacher was not a big deal. However, the possible consequences of this matter were accumulating in monstrous waves. If there were really no results from this matter, Bai Yunduo knew deeply that it would not be strange if the whole of Shangjing City was wiped out. In fact, this matter had touched the bottom line. With the temperament of her master and mistress, they had always been the kind of people who said, if the sky is in the way, cut it down with his sword. If the earth is in the way, cut it down with a sword. Under the strange circumstances of her son's disappearance and her son's teacher's mysterious disappearance, what that couple could do was imaginable, but also unimaginable. For the time being, there were no suspects for Zhuo Xiaoduo's disappearance. It was silent. The anger in her heart was at a delicate moment where she had nowhere to vent it. Qin Fangyang's disappearance provided a direction for this anger to be vented. As for Qin Fangyang's disappearance, anyone with a brain would be able to figure it out. To be able to wipe out the traces so quickly, so comprehensively, and so flawlessly, it must be the work of the higher-ups of the human race and the astral souls. There must be a huge force to do all this to be able to hide from Inspector by Yundua's thorough investigation. This was something that anyone could have thought of. However, what kind of higher-ups of the human race could compare to the monstrous anger of the Inspector Sky? This matter would inevitably evolve into a tsunami that would shake the history of the astral souls. This was already an undeniable and foreseeable earth-shattering change. Bai Yunduo did not dare to be negligent. She immediately called her husband, Yin Zhonghu. Zhuo Xiaoduo's teacher, Qin Fangyang, mysteriously disappeared in Shangjing. There is a huge force that erased all traces of Qin Fangyang in Shangjing. I suspect that this matter is related to the dragons fighting for the heritage. On the other side of the phone, after receiving this bad news, Yin Zhonghu immediately broke down without saying a word. He hysterically roared, "Motherfucker! What kind of people are they?" Chapter 1069. The king of Zhuolu instantly understood what was going on, but it was precisely because he understood the reason behind it that he was furious. As long as he thought about the matter of the dragons fighting for the heritage that his wife had mentioned, how could the matter not be clear? Thinking back to Qin Fangyang's previous efforts, he had finally been admitted into the ancestral Dragon Martial Arts Academy. His deep meaning was self-evident. He wanted to fight for a place for his student in the dragons fighting for the heritage. Now, the phenomenon of the dragons fighting for the heritage had appeared, and the recent opportunity to snatch the heritage was about to arrive. And Qin Fangyang's whereabouts were unknown. Presumably, Qin Fangyang had exposed his purpose and touched someone's sensitive nerve. Therefore, he was targeted, framed, or even assassinated. After all, everyone knew that Qin Fangyang was Zhuo Xiaoduo's teacher, and the master-disciple relationship between them was even more popular. As the teacher of the ancestral Dragon Martial Arts Academy, Qin Fangyang was qualified to propose a place for the dragons fighting for the heritage. And with Zhuo Xiaoduo's current reputation and status as the #1 of the younger generation, it was certain that he would be qualified, and no one could object to it. But on the other hand, Zhuo Xiaoduo's inevitable selection would undoubtedly touch the interests of some people. Moreover, Qin Fangyang's purpose was not just to get a place. Zhuo Xiaoduo's inevitable selection. But the bottom line but in this way, the conflict between Qin Fangyang and those whose interests were touched would be irreconcilable. Those bastards are becoming more and more unscrupulous and crazy. In the past few years, they made a fuss about the quota of the dragons fighting for the heritage. In order to stabilize the situation, we turned a blind eye to it. That's fine, but now at such a time, they can still do such a thing. Unforgivable. The king of Zhuolu's thoughts turned, and he understood the whole story of this strange matter. All the calculations and interests of all parties could be understood in an instant. Immediately, he made a call to Head Ding of the Martial Arts Department. Head Ding was shocked when he received a call from the king of Zhuolu. What was going on? Why the big boss call? Could it be something serious? He hurriedly picked up, "Your Majesty." "Listen," the king of Zhuolu said word by word. "I will only say this once." "Yes." Department Head Ding's entire body trembled as if he had been electrocuted. He stood up straight, and at the same time, he had a pen in his hand and paper ready. Just from the tone of this sentence, he was keenly aware of the seriousness of the matter and the level of their relationship that could be affected. The king of Zhuolu had personally made the call. "I'll only say this once. This was serious. In fact, it was so serious that he might not be able to shoulder it. The first thing is that the heaven-inspecting minister and his wife will be coming out of their seclusion in 2 days. Yin Zhonghu said. Department head Ding was ecstatic. Really? That's great. The entire continent is looking forward to it. As for the second matter, I'm sure you've heard about it. Zhuo Xiaoduo of the Hidden Dragon High School has gone missing. It is unknown whether he is dead or alive. Department head Ding was stunned for a moment. For a moment, he could not wrap his head around it. Regarding the disappearance of Zhuo Xiaoduo of the Hidden Dragon High School, as the department head of the martial arts department, he was naturally well informed. Naturally, he knew that the Hidden Dragon High School was frantically searching for him. However, department head Ding did not take it too seriously. After all, it did not matter if a student was a genius or even a prodigy. The Astral Souls human clan and the Umno Alliance have been fighting for a long time. There were countless geniuses who died in the middle of the road. If he were to worry about everyone, his heart would have been broken a long time ago. Especially, Zhuo Xiaoduo's background was too shallow, and he had no background at all. Yes, the heavenly kings of the left and right had sent people to thoroughly search for Zhuo Xiaoduo. Although the effort was great, it was done in secret. Even department head Ding, who was at his level, was completely unaware of it. Otherwise, he would not be so calm. The heavenly king of the left said in a cold voice, "Listen, Zhuo Xiaoduo is the only son of the heaven-inspecting minister and his wife." Clang! Department head Ding's phone fell on the table. There was a cracking sound on the other side of the phone. It was a glass of water that had fallen to the ground. Then, department head Ding picked up the phone with lightning speed. "Your Majesty, you. I said, I will only say it once." The king of Zwolu said coldly, "Out of my mouth into your ears." "Understood. I understand." Department head Ding's voice was trembling. He was trembling badly. The joy of the minister coming out of his seclusion instantly turned into fear. Pure fear. As a man with children and a family, how could he not understand the hidden weight of this sentence? Or rather, he understood it too well. The minister's son was missing. The minister's only son. And the minister and his wife were about to come out of their seclusion with invincible power and cultivation. If I am invincible and come out of my seclusion, and then someone tells me that my son was framed, kidnapped, missing, or dead, what would I do? Department head Ding put himself in their shoes and thought of many things in an instant. At this moment, Department head Ding's mind was in a mess. He was at a loss. He only felt like his head was exploding with thunder one after another. "Listen." The king of Zwolu said, "The heavenly king of the right and I are investigating Zhuo Xiaoduo's disappearance. We don't need your help. But now, there's a new situation. Zhuo Xiaoduo's teacher, Qin Fangyang, is currently teaching at Ancestral Dragon High School. It's this teacher Qin Fangyang. A few days before and after the New Year, he also went missing. His whereabouts are unknown, and his life and death are unknown. This is not a surprising thing. However, the investigator personally investigated it thoroughly, but he still couldn't find the whereabouts of this Mr. Qin. Even the information and traces related to him were all erased. He left no trace and no trace. The meaning revealed by this is very thought-provoking. Minister Ding, you should understand what I'm talking about, right?" The king of Zwolu paused and said coldly, "This teacher Qin is Zhuo Xiaoduo's first teacher. It can be said that he is the most important person to Zhuo Xiaoduo besides his parents. Let me make it clear to you. The reason he went missing is because of the quota for the Dragon's Battle for the Heritage." Department head Ding felt like he was suffocating. His throat was making noises. He said dryly, "Heavenly Kings, well, what do you mean? Haven't I made it clear enough? Teacher Qin went missing because he wanted to fight for the quota for Zhuo Xiaoduo. Then, do you need me to say who did it?" The king of Zwolu said indifferently, "I don't care about the details, and I'm not interested to know. It doesn't matter to me who did it. I'm just telling you, or in other words, warning you seriously. Qin Fangyang cannot die." "I understand." Beads of sweat the size of soybeans dripped down from Minister Ding's forehead, and he had an urge to relieve himself. The king of Zwolu's voice sounded like it came from hell. The dragon's battle for the heritage is just a path to the top. We are already far away from that level, so we don't pay attention, don't care, and don't care. The Department of Martial Arts and the Ancestral Dragon High School can do whatever you want. Just treat it as a benefit for the Ancestral Dragon bloodline, the Department of Martial Arts, the children of the royal family, and the children of the big families in the capital. This is not a big deal. After all, the privileged class enjoys some benefits and some unspoken rules to make plans for the future. It's understandable. Wherever one goes, one's vision will follow. As the saying goes, the clouds cover one's eyes, but one's body is at the top. This is what it means. After all, no matter what society or dynasty, there will always be such unspoken rules. It's not an ideal to ask for the whole world to be peaceful and for all the officials to be diligent and honest. It's just a delusion. But this time, some people unfortunately violated the taboo. What's even more unfortunate is that they just happened to run into a fatal timing. The evils they bring on themselves are the hardest to bear. These words come out of my mouth and into your ears. You know the consequences if you leak a single word. I understand everything. Department head Ding stood straight. He was sweating so much that his clothes were soaked. He was getting more and more impulsive. Right now, he could only feel his heart pounding, his blood pressure rising, and his eyes seeing stars. At this stage, I only have one request. Heavenly Kings was said slowly. Qin Fangyang cannot die. I understand. Heavenly Kings were repeated the words, Qin Fangyang cannot die twice. The first time, it was a simple introduction. The second time, he pointed out the pros and cons, pointed out the crux, and emphasized it. On the other end, Heavenly King's voice was cold. If you understand, then do it. Before he could finish, he hung up. Department head Ding held the phone in his hand. He could feel cold sweat breaking out all over his body. His heart was pounding in his throat. Something big had happened. Something really big had happened. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind. He put down the phone slowly and stood there in a daze for a while. Then, he rushed out and got a bucket of water. He activated the icy chi and turned it into ice cubes. He rubbed them on his face and neck. He couldn't make a decision now. If he made a decision now, he would be impulsive and do bad things. He couldn't make any mistakes in what he was about to do. He couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Once he made a mistake, he would be doomed. There was no room for luck. When he finally calmed down and regained his senses, he sat on the chair. The King's Zwolu's meaning is clear. If we can find Qin Fangyang before the minister and his wife find out about this matter and deal with this matter thoroughly, then there will still be room to turn the situation around, and we can save the lives of most people. If the minister and his wife find out that Qin Fangyang hasn't been found, or that he's already dead, the consequences will be unimaginable. Many people will die. The situation now is obvious. The timing of this incident is too subtle. The minister's son went missing first. His son's teacher went missing after he fought for his son's right to compete for the dragon's vein. Both of them are still missing. Once the two are connected, it's serious enough to pierce through the sky. Department head Ding organized his thoughts. As he thought carefully, he picked up the phone and made a call. To the brothers and sisters who are reading the original subscription, I want to explain, I really don't want to be sick. I really don't want injections. I also want to explode every day. But my body is like this. I can't help it. To the readers who are reading the pirated version silently. If you understand, then understand. If you don't, you can choose to read another book. What follows is a scolding. To the people who are reading the pirated version and scolding me, I reply, fuck you. It's up to you whether you want to read it or not. Who do you think you are? How much face have I given you? Did the heavens give birth to you wrongly? Why are you looking at the fruits of other people's labor so shamelessly and scolding them? All these years of compulsory education have taught you to be shameless? Chapter 1070. Minister Ding didn't call the leaders of Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts. He knew that it would be useless and would leak the information. There were some things that could only be done and not said. If he made this call and alerted the enemy, it was very likely to cause Qin Fangyang's death. Even if Qin Fangyang was still alive, he would die after he made this call. Humans' criminal mentality was always like this. The first thing to do was to destroy the evidence and exonerate oneself. It had nothing to do with him. If you say it had something to do with him, show me the evidence. Even if you knew that this matter was too big and the consequences were beyond your ability to bear, you would still hope for a fluke. This was also the fundamental reason why people would only regret at the last moment. But it was too late for regrets. Minister Ding had to eliminate the possibility of such a situation happening. This matter had exceeded the scope of common sense and law. At this time, he couldn't act rashly. He called his daughter, Ding Xiaolan. Xiaolan, is it convenient for you to talk now? Yes. Well, are you alone? Is there anyone beside you? Ding Xiaolan immediately sensed that something was wrong. Dad, what's the matter? Cough. Come to me immediately. There's something at home. Minister Ding thought for a long time and decided to call his daughter over. If his daughter was careless and someone heard a word or two, the matter would inevitably be stirred up again. Okay. Immediately. Okay. While waiting for his daughter, Minister Ding went to take a shower. He was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat and his clothes were already soaked. He had to take a shower and change his clothes. Just as the king of Zwolu said, where one's position was, that's where one's vision was, and that's where one's psychological quality was. But this matter was too serious. Suddenly faced with extreme pressure from the top, the high-ranking elder of Minister Ding couldn't help but feel agitated. Thinking about the possibility of disaster, he didn't pee on the spot and only broke out in a few sweats. His psychological quality was quite strong. About 20 minutes later, Ding Xiaolan arrived at Minister Ding's office. Dad, what's the matter? It's big. Minister Ding said, Let me ask you, do you know Qin Fangyang? Yes. How's your relationship? Not much. Oh, is there a grudge? Not really. My understanding of him is that Teacher Qin is a good teacher with excellent teaching standards. However, he has only been teaching in Ancestral Dragon High School for a short period of time, so it's hard to say that I have a thorough understanding of him. The place where he taught before was a small border city with few outstanding talents, so it's hard to judge. Ding Xiaolan answered seriously. She knew her father's temper. Once he asked a person in such a serious manner, it was definitely not a small matter. Have you seen Qin Fangyang after the Spring Festival? I haven't seen him since the Spring Festival. Ding Xiaolan said, Qin Fangyang and I aren't in the same grade. We're separated by a few departments. Moreover, we're not in the same system. With his current qualifications in Ancestral Dragon High School, he doesn't have any status. Naturally, he rarely comes into contact with me. Minister Ding looked into his daughter's eyes and said word by word, You've really never seen him before? Ding Xiaolan shook her head. At least, I haven't seen him since the Spring Festival. Minister Ding stared at his daughter for a long time. After confirming that his daughter was not lying, he finally felt relieved. He waved his hand and smiled. If that's the case, then it's fine. Let's not talk about Qin Fangyang. He pondered for a moment and said, Do you know about the dragons fighting for the heritage? Ding Xiaolan said, This matter is naturally classified as top secret to the outside world. However, it's not a secret to high-level teachers like us. Of course, we know about it. Who's usually in charge of the dragons fighting for the heritage? Or rather, which leaders in the school are in charge of this? Although this matter isn't classified, it's still related to an opportunity. Therefore, a principal, a secretary, 8 vice principals, and more than a dozen directors are involved. Ding Xiaolan said, This has long become a routine. The dragons fighting for the heritage is one of the few opportunities that can be encountered. Everyone is coveting it. Even major families have people in martial arts high school. However, there are only a few spots for the dragons fighting for the heritage. Every selection is extremely cautious. Firstly, quality must be ensured. Secondly, there must be as few sinners as possible. To the greatest extent, the situation of getting the brother's favor and losing the sister-in-law's favor will not happen. Minister Ding was gratified. Looks like the leadership of Ancestral Dragon High School is very thoughtful. Sigh. It should be said that they have to be thoughtful. There have been too many painful lessons in the past. Seeing that the dragons fighting for the heritage is about to start again, many families have already started to operate. Ding Xiaolan smiled easily. However, that has nothing to do with me. I'm not in charge of school affairs. I'm only in charge of teaching students. Focus on your job. Not bad, not bad. Minister Ding smiled. Who are the principals, secretaries, and vice principals in charge of these? Tell me about them in detail. Ding Xiaolan began to introduce them one by one. What families do these people have behind them? Are there any outstanding disciples in Ancestral Dragon High School among their families? Not bad. Looks like these principals are really not bad. All right, which families have been active recently? Who do they go? Who do they look for? What's the connection? Do you know? Okay. That's it. Is there anything else? Understood. Then, which campus and class is Qin Fanyang in charge of? Which class is he teaching? How many students are there in the class? Oh, Ancestral Dragon First Year Sword Academy? Which class is it? No need to call. No need to ask. It's fine. Who is the leader in charge of Ancestral Dragon First Year? Who is in charge of the Sword Academy? Which family is he from? Does Qin Fanyang have any friends in school that he can talk to? Who is he closer to? At first, Minister Ding was still fine. His speech and actions were elegant. However, as the topic deepened, he simply transformed into 100,000 whys. One question after another revolved around Qin Fanyang, and he began to ask his daughter. There were many questions that Ding Xiaolan herself couldn't answer, but he didn't let her call others to ask. Ding Xiaolan quickly realized that in the hour of conversation between father and daughter, all the topics revolved around Qin Fanyang. However, her father expressed more than once that he had nothing to do with Qin Fanyang, and the topic had nothing to do with Qin Fanyang. Do you think I'm stupid? You call this nothing to do with him? If I wasn't already married, I would have suspected that you were looking for a son-in-law. Even when you interrogated my husband, you didn't ask so much, right? After this conversation, Ding Xiaolan left in a daze. Only a few words echoed in her ears. Remember, the content of our conversation today cannot be known by anyone. Not even your husband can do it. I'm looking for you because of our family's matters. Our family's matters don't need to be known by outsiders. Other than us father and daughter, everyone else is an outsider. From now on, try your best not to stay in Ancestral Dragon High School. Even if you have to go, leave immediately after you're done and go home. Or just do something else and take on a few more missions. After you go back, if someone is curious about why I'm looking for you, you have to send me the person's name, identity, and background immediately after you've dealt with them. Lastly, you must remember this. Out of my mouth into your ears. Remember, other than us father and daughter, everyone else is an outsider. As Ding Xiaolan thought about it, she felt a chill run down her spine. Her father had never used such a serious tone and expression when talking to her. It seems that the matter isn't small, but it's so big that it's beyond what father can handle. When Ding Xiaolan walked out of the martial arts department, she stopped at the guardhouse for a while to calm her emotions. Then, she chatted with the guard at the door for a while before leaving. When she left, her steps were light and her expression was normal. She could clearly feel that when she was in the guardhouse, her father was no longer in the office. She didn't know where he went. She looked up. Dark clouds were rolling in the sky. The spring festival had just ended. The weather was still cold and chilly, but the dark clouds in the sky had clearly gone from the rolling summer. The sky and earth changed color. Rumbled that the muffled thunder shook the mountains and rivers, causing them to tremble. Lightning streaked across the sky from east to west, splitting the sky and the earth into two. Ding Xiaolan stared blankly at the sky for a long time and muttered, "It's not even the second day of the second lunar month. Why is there thunder already?" Minister Ding gathered 36 people at lightning speed and went to the royal family's meeting room. The meeting included the principal and vice principal of Ancestral Dragon High School, as well as the family heads who explained their family backgrounds. They were all gathered in one place. "I've called all of you here today for a matter. Minister Ding had no intention of sitting down. He stood in front of the table with a cold expression. Please speak, Minister. I don't want to waste time. I'll get straight to the point. Minister Ding said calmly. There's a person called Qin Fangyang. The principal of Ancestral Dragon High School frowned and said, Minister, what's the relationship with this Qin Fangyang? Since he went missing, many people have come to ask about him. You don't need to know about his identity and background. Minister Ding said, I only need to confirm one thing with you, or rather, inform you of one thing. If Qin Fangyang is already dead, in other words, he can't appear in front of me alive before the dawn of tomorrow, then I can very responsibly inform you that all 36 people here, including your families, will not be able to survive. Not even a chicken or dog will be left alive. Not even an inch of grass will be left behind. You don't need to speak now, and you don't need to react. Just listen to me. The person who did this must be one or a few of you. If you don't want to die, find the person who did this as soon as possible. Also, you must find Qin Fangyang as well. If Qin Fangyang is already dead, then I hope that you can revive him before 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, intact, and send him to me. Chapter 1071. If you can't do it, or if you can't do it already, I advise you to take poison or commit suicide before 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's not a bad way to deal with it. At least you can die more comfortably and retain your last bit of dignity. Minister Ding said indifferently, Please note that I'm not the one informing you. It's the king of Zwalu's order. I'm just a messenger. I don't know anything else. The 36 people turned pale with fright. At the same time, they stood up. Minister Ding, where did this come from? Minister Ding said indifferently, I've said that I don't know anything. The only thing I can tell you is that the good days of controlling the dragons, snatching the heritage, are over. Everyone, please cherish these last 10 hours. Perhaps some of you will still be alive after 10 hours, but I can tell you very responsibly that some people have yet to vent their anger. It's not because you don't deserve to die. After Minister Ding finished speaking, he walked out of the room. Minister, an old man with a fierce look said anxiously, We don't even know what happened. Where do you want us to start? Minister Ding stood at the door and said indifferently, Master Lu, or rather, Minister Lu, it's useless for you to tell me anything now. I don't know anything, and I don't want to know. Sigh. It's pardonable if others say they don't know. But if even you don't know, what's the point of Shangjing Darknet's existence? I've already overstepped my boundaries. That's all I have to say. Everyone, take care of yourselves. Whether you can find a person or not, you don't have to tell me anymore. I'm not directly in charge. If you find a person, you don't have to explain it to me. You just have to send the person to me. Everything else has nothing to do with me. I don't want to know anything. I'm just a messenger. The principal of Ancestral Dragon High School said angrily, Minister Ding, your sudden words have left us in a mess. Can you explain it more clearly? We'll be grateful for your kindness. Minister Ding was about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. He turned to look at the sky. This was because on the other side of the horizon, two rays of light, one white and one blue, suddenly shot up into the sky. In an instant, the dark clouds in the sky were all dispersed, and the clear air of the clouds reappeared, filling the world. An aura of excitement and longing soared into the sky and swept across the land of the astral souls. In the entire Star Soul continent, countless people felt their spirits lifted at this moment. It was an indescribable feeling of comfort and refreshment. Countless martial artists suddenly felt their minds clear up at this moment. Their cultivation base also increased accordingly. The once rugged path of cultivation suddenly became a smooth path that a cool breeze suddenly blew. In the blink of an eye, it had already blown a great distance away. Everyone in the meeting room stared with their mouths agape. Other than the evergreen plants outside the window, the originally withered grassland suddenly melted and the ice layer melted. Wisps of green grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few seconds, there were already extremely delicate by flowers swaying in the wind. At the same time, all the plants turned green, sprouted, and branched. This is a miracle. Everyone even forgot about Minister Ding's warning just now. They forgot about their fear, and only shock was left. Minister Ding stood at the door in a daze, looking at everything outside. Spring returned to the earth, and all things grew. For some reason, his heart was cold. Only he knew the reason for this. Shock. Perhaps, if you can't hand over the person after a day, you'll be even more shocked. Among so many people, there were definitely innocent people in Qin Fangyang's matter. However, for so many years, the ones who controlled the dragons to snatch the heritage were these people. There were very few who didn't benefit from it. Everyone, farewell. Minister Ding strode away. In the astral soul's continent, strange phenomena occurred frequently. After all, two super mighty figures had come out of seclusion. The heavenly Tao was shocked. The Tao League and the Umno Alliance, which were adjacent to the astral soul's continent, also changed. In the Tao League, the number one person in the Tao League, Taoist Lei, stood with his hands behind his back and looked into the distance. The wind and clouds changed drastically, and a trace of gloominess appeared in his eyes. It was a complicated emotion of watching a junior rise and watching himself fall. He watched as the person who he did not even look at previously rose to a height that he had dreamed of, but had worked hard for his entire life. The Sky Patrol minister couple has returned from the mortal world. Today, they have officially come out of seclusion. Seeing the sudden change in the situation, Taoist Lei, who was desolate, told everyone the truth. Actually, there was no need for him to say it. The other Taoists were also peak experts in the world. How could they not understand this reality? They were all silent for a long time. Everyone felt an inexplicable pressure pressing down on them, pressing down on their hearts. The left minister has a bad temper and has always been vengeful. This time, he has come out of seclusion. The husband and wife have worked together to rule the world. Taoist, Lei said calmly. The Tao League didn't do anything during this period of time, right? He said it very vaguely. But everyone understood the true meaning of this sentence. You didn't do anything to make this lunatic angry, right? They were both lunatics, but Zhuo Zhangchang was not the flood. The flood which had come out of seclusion and made a shocking breakthrough. But there was no need to worry. Because the flood witch's state of mind had been tempered thousands of times, honed over countless years, and accumulated countless experiences to achieve the invincible state she was now. On the other hand, this minister was quite different. Nominally, his battle prowess was almost equal to that of the great flood shaman. However, he had just come out of his closed-door training and lacked the necessary tempering. It was like a peerless divine weapon that had just come out of the furnace. It needed the baptism of battle and the sacrifice of blood to be able to live up to its name. In other words, he needed a sharpening stone. Taoist Lei naturally did not want the Tao League to become the Sky Patrol minister's whetstone at this time. Then, the consequences would only be too miserable. No, we didn't provoke this lunatic. The Taoists were all speechless. Back then, Zhuo Zhangchang had made a name for himself at a young age. When he reached the Tao integration realm, he was unruly and unruly. However, as long as he saw them, he would be very honest and obedient, in order to gain something from the Tao League and obtain some martial techniques. He had even thought of many ways to flatter them. However, ever since this guy broke through the Tao integration realm and reached the primordial chaos, he was on the verge of reaching the peak of this world. His attitude was no longer as respectful as before. On the surface, he was still acceptable and gave them some face. However, when he broke through the primordial chaos and reached the Luo heaven realm, it could be said that he turned hostile and began to provoke them constantly. From then on, he even began to have a desire to fight the Flood Witch. When he reached the later stages of the Luo heaven realm, this desire to fight was completely formed, and he became another giant in the three continents. This caused the balance between the three continents to reach an unprecedented period of stability. However, to everyone's surprise, many years later, this guy followed his wife and transformed into the mortal world. Previously, Feng Yun and Feng Yun had set up an assassination attempt on Zhuo Xiaoduo. They had tried to break Zhuangchang and his wife's idea of transforming into the mortal world and experiencing the realm. As long as they succeeded, it would be enough to affect their state of mind and greatly reduce the effect of their transformation into the mortal world. However, at that time, due to certain reasons, the people they sent were slightly weaker. Of course, this was under the condition that they did not succeed. They felt that their original judgment was shallow. If they had succeeded, naturally they would not have said so. After all, according to common sense, the people they sent out would have been buried together with Xiaoduo with his strength at that time. However, no matter what the process was, they did not succeed in the end. The Tao League also paid a considerable price because of this. Now, Zhuangchang and his wife had returned from transforming into the mortal world and caused a change in heaven and earth. Obviously, they had made an amazing breakthrough and should have reached the chaotic realm. Then, the couple's strength level was at the level that could suppress the world. Thinking of the past, scenes of the Tao League's 7 swords flashed before his eyes. He was naturally full of emotions and sighed endlessly. Now, it was no longer his time. He was not as strong as others. A feeling of nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity arose spontaneously. That's good. Thunder Taoist said, now we are still in an alliance. Some conflicts should be avoided if possible. Don't cause any more trouble. Understood, understood. No alliance. The flood which stood at the top of the mountain and looked to the east. Her eyes were clear. He clearly felt the shocking enlightenment and the soaring fighting spirit in the unseen world. He could not help but smile. I'll wait for you to sharpen your sword. Then I'll go. Be there or be square. He muttered to himself. His messy hair danced in the wind. However, there was a kind of gratification on his face. He was gratified that an old friend understood him and an old rival was evenly matched. When he broke through, he sent a touch of enlightenment over. And after the other party broke through, he sent back his own enlightenment. Mysterious cause and effect. I don't know you. You don't know me either. After all, there was always a cause and effect, and vice versa. Interesting, it's really interesting. The flood, which only had a faint smile on her face, transforming into the mortal world. So that's it. We thought we were separated from our original selves, but in fact, it's just another way of existence. The mortal world is full of changes, birth, aging, illness, and death, giving birth to children, a perfect life. So that's it. However, our paths are different after all. I'm walking the path of a lonely powerhouse. You're walking the path of perfection. It was hard to conclude who was better and who was worse. Let's go and see. I'll wait for you. In a secret place in the continent of astral souls. Yu Xingqian was restlessly pacing back and forth. His face was full of worry, but he was trying hard to keep his mind calm. He suddenly felt that somewhere behind him, an abundant and endless energy suddenly burst out. It rushed up like a tsunami. Boundless vitality instantly wrapped around him. At this moment, Yu Xingqian felt that the internal injuries that he had accumulated over the years and the loss of his origin were all healed in an instant. The power that shook heaven and earth erupted behind him. Breakthrough. Perfect breakthrough. Chapter 1072. The itchy feeling on his body came clearly, and it was indescribably comfortable. Brother. Yu Xingqian muttered to himself. He knew that this was his brother giving him a benefit with the help of the momentum of heaven and earth when he was breaking through. This was the lingering charm of the Great Way, the momentum of heaven and earth. This was not an ordinary thing. If it were not for Zhui Changlu's intention and the couple's joint effort, he, as an outsider, would never have been able to grasp it. Actually, this old brother of mine has always seen and remembered the pain and suffering that I've suffered for so many years. So at this time, they were making up for it and giving it to him. In this regard, Yu Xingqian only felt touched and warm in his heart. But then, he became even more worried. What should he do when he came out of seclusion? Xiaoduo and Yu Xingqian, that a tremor seemed to rise in the depths of everyone's heart. They could clearly feel that something seemed to be broken. What was more direct was that It seemed that the cocoon that had been troubling the moth had broken open. A moth quietly flew out, spread its gorgeous multicolored wings, and flapped them to take flight. The shackles were gone. From then on, the mountains were high and the rivers were wide. Behind Yu Xingqian, the endless space suddenly shattered and turned into a huge black hole, slowly rotating. In the black hole, a colorful, mottled, indescribably mysterious and magnificent, suddenly appeared. And two figures from small to large in the black hole seemed to emerge from the void and floated out. One of them was handsome in a green robe, and the other was as white as snow, beautiful and peerless. It was Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding, the couple, who had returned to the mortal world. "Brother Yu, you've worked hard." Zhuo Chonglu smiled, took his wife's hand, and stood in front of Yu Xingqian. "It's what I should do. Congratulations, you've finally mastered the divine skill." Yu Xingqian's expression was complicated. "Hey, what divine skill did you say?" Zhuo Chonglu laughed and said, "After the real breakthrough, you will know that the road ahead is still endless. Now, you just broke away from the original shackles and embarked on the starting point of a new road. That's all." "That's great," Yu Xingqian said sincerely. "It's a great thing after all." Wu Yuding was attentive and felt that Yu Xingqian's expression was not right. Yu Xingqian's attitude should be overjoyed after the couple's breakthrough, but now his expression was a little complicated. "Brother Yu, what's the matter?" Wu Yuding asked. "Yu Xingqian, there's something." Yu Xingqian said, "Yu Xingqian, brother Yu Xingqian. Zhuo Zhonglu smiled faintly. "To make brother Yu so troubled, it has to be about little Duo and little Nian, right? What happened to them?" Zhuo Chonglu was smart enough to think of this in an instant. Other than his son and daughter, there was probably nothing else, no one, that could make Yu Xingqian so hesitant. Wu Yuding frowned. Looking at Yu Xingqian's hesitant expression, a strong sense of uneasiness grew. "Xiao Duo, did he get into trouble?" "Well, it's like this. It was fine at first, but after the Spring Festival, Xiao Duo suddenly disappeared. We're looking for him." Yu Xingqian sighed and looked at Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding with a guilty expression. "Disappeared?" Wu Yuding's eyes slowly narrowed. "Disappeared? What day did he go missing? Where did he go missing? What day is it today? How many days has it been?" "He went missing on the first day of the Spring Festival. Today, it's the 17th day of the Lunar New Year." At this moment, Yu Xingqian was surrounded by a sense of suffocation. However, since things had come to this, he didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly explained the matter in detail, leaving nothing out. This included how he had investigated and how he had searched for them. He explained everything in detail to Zhang Xian. In the end, he said, "The conclusion we have now is that to be able to do this without leaving a trace, the attacker should be at least a Heavenly King level master. However, we have no clue who did it." Zhuo Chonglu's face gradually darkened. His eyes slowly narrowed, becoming as sharp as needles. "Missing on the first day of the Lunar New Year, the 17th day of the Lunar New Year. During this period, he had been missing for a total of 16 days. This was not a short period of time. What should and shouldn't have happened should have already happened. Is it the Tao League's rhyme? Or the Umno Alliance's rhyme?" Zhuo Chonglu asked word by word. "Rhyme." It was a rhyme that only peak masters could possess. Each of them had their own characteristics. As long as the time was short, as long as the master made a move, it could be felt. "It's neither. No, I can't feel it." Yu Xingqian's face was a little pale. He felt guilty and uncomfortable in his heart. His old friend was in seclusion, but he didn't protect his son well. Feng Hai, Wu Yuding's pretty face had turned pale. There was an endless storm brewing in her eyes. "I want to go and take a look." In front, behind, to the left, and to the right, pieces of space were shattering inch by inch. The space cracks crisscrossed and appeared one after another. Wu Yuding had a mottled feeling that she was about to collapse. She came out full of joy, but she was greeted with the news of her son's disappearance. Wu Yuding was about to explode on the spot. What did it mean to be missing for 16 days? If it was an ordinary person who went missing for 16 days, there might be hope of finding him. However, with the status of the couple, The disappearance of their child for 16 days was almost synonymous with complete death. Sister-in-law, Yu Xingqian just said 2 words. Wu Yuding let out a deep snort and tore the space apart. Her slender body drilled into the crack and disappeared without a trace. I'll go and take a look too. Zhuo Changlu also tore the space apart and went after her. Zhuo Changlu's concern for his son was no less than Wu Yuding's. Even though he could remain calm on the surface, his heart was already in turmoil. Even Yu Xingqian could feel the sharp, killing intent clearly. He couldn't help but feel his hair stand on end. I have to go and take a look too. Sigh. Although I can't stop them, we can at least do something together. Yu Xingqian stomped his feet and tore the space apart to chase after them. Feng Hai, the king of Zhuolu and the heavenly king of the right, were looking at the strange phenomenon in the sky. Both of them were stunned and felt uncomfortable all over. They twisted their bodies and felt that their bodies were a little wrinkled. They seemed to be tied up. They looked at each other and saw the anxiety in each other's eyes. They were like 2 little quails that sensed the coming of a storm. He came out of seclusion. He finally came out of seclusion. Oh, this is really since he came out of seclusion. He must be the first to know the news. Then, the next step must be here. Yu Dongtian's face was pale. He trembled and said, Little Hu, you alone are enough here. I'm redundant here. The battle at the front line is so intense. I have to go and take charge. Yin Zhonghu grabbed him tightly. Want to run? Is there such a good thing in the world? Today, if we live, you'll accompany me. If we die, you have to accompany me. I've been your scapegoat for so many years, and you want to run away today? Brother, let go of me. Brother, we'll share blessings and misfortunes. Chapter 1073. Yu Dongtian was on the verge of tears. Xiaohu, we've been brothers for so many years. I've always treated you as my own brother. Please be kind and let me go. I really don't want to see Anzhua. Please let me go. I'll be grateful to you for the rest of my life. Yin Zhonghu looked at him sympathetically. No, he looked behind Yu Dongtian. Then he bowed. Greetings, mistress. Yu Dongtian's face froze. Brother, don't joke about this. As he slowly turned around, the most terrifying and horrifying scene entered his eyes. He saw Wu Yuding, who was dressed in white, looking at him with deep eyes. Yu Dongtian broke down on the spot, but he still managed to say instinctively, Anzhua, I miss you so much. Get lost. Wu Yuding didn't have the time to be angry with Yu Dongtian. She slapped him aside and spun him like a top. Then, she frowned and looked at Yin Zhonghu. Who too? What's wrong with your little junior brother? Before she could finish her sentence, Zhuo Changlu appeared from thin air. Then, Yu Xingqian came out as well. Yin Zhonghu was really nervous. His face was pale, and his cheeks were trembling. Yu Dongtian quickly stopped spinning and went behind his father. He diligently massaged his father's shoulders and said softly, Dad, protect me later. You little brat. You're right. You're looking for your dad now? My dad is omnipotent. You think too highly of me. I can't even protect myself now. Yu Xingqian looked defeated. Yu Dongtian's face was sullen as he stopped rubbing his shoulder. Keep massaging. You might not have the chance in the future, Yu Xingqian said. Yin Zhonghu started to explain. He felt unprecedentedly depressed and told her everything that had happened recently. The more Wu Yuding listened, the angrier she became. The more she listened, the more she couldn't hold it in. But more than that, she became more flustered. She could only feel her heart pounding, and her delicate body was on the verge of collapsing. This was originally a situation that absolutely shouldn't have occurred. With her and Zhuo Zhonglu's Hongshun transformation and their joint breakthroughs, they'd already reached the peak of the world. No matter if it was in terms of strength or mental state, such a negative situation still occurred at this moment, and it could only prove the severity of the current unforeseen event. Zhuo Changlu was speechless. In a flash, he entered the villa. Then he floated out and used the Tianyuan escape technique to search along the way to Phoenix City. Zhuo Changlu's Tianyuan escape technique was naturally not something that Zhuo Xiaoduo or Zhuo Xiaoyan could compare to. He returned in just 15 minutes. However, His brows were deeply furrowed. Obviously, he didn't find anything. He couldn't sense anything with his divine soul. Looking at Wu Yuding's pale face, Zhuo Changlu took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Don't panic about this. We haven't reached the point of despair yet. Don't forget who we are." "Who are we?" Wu Yuding said angrily. "How special are we?" "Yes, you're the Sky Inspecting Minister." "That's amazing." Zhuo Changlu smiled bitterly and said, "What Sky Inspecting Minister? What I want to say is, we're Xiao Duo's biological parents. It's said that mother and son are connected by heart. Father and son are inseparable. This bond of blood and flesh is not something that can be separated by any space. Previously, when we were in seclusion, did you feel panic? Did you feel the kind of shock and trepidation?" "No, I didn't either." "Then I can say with certainty that there's still hope for this matter." Zhuo Changlu was worthy of the reputation of being the #1 man in the astral souls. Even in the face of such a terrible situation, with AI, whereabouts unknown and her life or death unknown, he could calmly analyze the situation and put forward the pros and cons. His words weren't purely to comfort Wu Yuding or to convince himself. Instead, he felt that what he said really made sense. If their son had really met with misfortune, with their divine senses and their feelings for Zhuo Xiaoduo, it was impossible for them not to feel anything strange. With this said, Wu Yuding also pondered. Although Zhuo Changlu's words were very mysterious and unsubstantiated, Wu Yuding really felt the same as Zhuo Changlu. There was no abnormal feeling of trepidation. She immediately felt a little relieved and said, "Don't talk nonsense with me. Hurry up and find my son. If you can't find him, I'll teach you a lesson." Zhuo Changlu's face twitched, and his indifferent face became slightly distorted. I just came out of seclusion like you, okay? Why do you want to teach me a lesson? I can also say this to you. Hurry up and find your son. If you can't find him, I'll teach you a lesson. It's just that I don't dare to say it." "But why did you suddenly change the topic to me? Who did I offend?" "Well, does Xiaoyan know about this?" Wu Yuding asked. Yin Duo specially went to Shangjing and stayed by Xiaoyan's side. She didn't dare to let her know about this. If she panics, the situation will be even more difficult to deal with, Yin Zhonghu said. Wu Yuding breathed a sigh of relief. She felt that Yin Zhonghu and his wife handled it well. How could she not know the temperament and thoughts of her daughter and daughter-in-law? If she knew the truth, she would definitely do everything she could to find Zhuo Xiaoduo and make the situation even more chaotic. Then she frowned and pondered this. Who did it? Zhuo Changlu was also pondering. The person who could do such a thing was definitely a top expert. However, there were only so many top experts in the world. They could be counted on one's fingers. Who was it? Moreover, it was against his own son. In addition to the means, it also required courage. At this moment, Yin Zhonghu's phone suddenly rang. Quietly asked the holy monk, "Is my daughter beautiful?" "Is my daughter beautiful?" Cough, cough. Yin Zhonghu picked up the phone awkwardly. "It's Yin Duo." Then he picked up the phone. Bai Yun's voice clearly came from the phone. "There's still no news about Qin Fangyang's disappearance. There's no progress at all. I'm really angry and want to do something." Yin Zhonghu was very embarrassed. Cough, cough. "What's going on?" "Mr. Qin went missing to help little junior brother get a place. These bureaucrats in Shangjing are still trying to shirk responsibility, thinking that they can get away with it. Ahoo! I'm worried that something big will happen when Master and his wife come back. Those people are annoying, but if we kill them all at once, it's inevitable that there will be chaos. Yin Zhonghu, we have to be careful about this. Little junior brother went missing, and now little junior brother's teacher also went missing. Is this really such a coincidence?" Bai Yun's angry voice came. "This time, Shangjing needs to be cleaned up. This is too much." Yin Zhonghu coughed. "Yes." After saying a few more words, Bai Yunduo hung up the phone angrily. On the other side, Bai Yunduo hung up the phone and muttered to herself, "I knew this idiot would think too much and not dare to say it. Master and his wife should be by his side right now. They must have heard it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coughing and doing something like that. If you don't dare to say it, I'll say it. Let master and his wife teach these vermin a lesson. What's there to be afraid of? Astral souls. I don't dare to talk about other things, but there are plenty of talents in the human race. On the other side, Yin Zhonghu put down the phone and sighed. How could he not know that he couldn't hide it anymore? He had noticed just now that, as Bai Yunduo spoke, Wu Yuding's face, which had just calmed down a little, turned angry again. Moreover, it was getting worse and worse. What's going on? Cough, it's like this. Yin Zhonghu braced himself and told her everything about Qin Fangyang. Why didn't you say such an important thing just now? You kept hemming and hawing. Without Duo Er's call, did you want to keep it secret? Wu Yuding snorted and said, or are you worried that master and his wife will be impulsive and cause trouble for you? The king of Zwalu. No, I definitely didn't mean that. I've already asked Minister Ding to investigate this thoroughly. Moreover, I promised to give him some time. So he won't just do that. Yin Zhonghu knelt down and admitted his guilt with his head lowered. So, we haven't done anything for so many years. Wu Yuding said with emotion, Dad, it seems that the world has forgotten about us. Zhou Changlu sighed softly. For the first time, a melancholy expression appeared on his face. Damn it, don't you think we're outdated? We can't keep up with the times. Isn't it said that people who can't keep up with the times are destined to be forgotten by the world? Or have we already been forgotten? Their words were calm and even a little playful. They didn't show any signs of anger. However, Yin Zhonghu, Yu Dantian, Yu Xingqin, and the others felt cold sweat break out. Even their hair stood on end. In front of them, the couple had been suppressing their temper, and it was finally about to explode. Most likely, they had found a breakthrough. You guys stay here and continue to look. Zhou Changlu said warmly. Let's go to Shanjing to take a look. It seems that they need us more. Yes. Yin Zhonghu was full of regret. As expected, things were still developing in this direction. Yu Dantian watched as Zhou Changlu and his wife tore through space and disappeared. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. They left. It's good that they left. That means they didn't notice me. Everything else is not important. That's great. Just as he was rejoicing, he heard Wu Yuding's voice. Little Yu, when this is over, we'll settle the accounts between us. You should pray that this matter will go smoothly. If Xiao Duo can be found successfully, you should thank him. Yu Dantian looked at the void and wanted to cry, but had no tears. What he meant was that Yu Dantian said with a sad face, Brother, work harder to find him. Yin Zhonghu rolled his eyes. Shanjing was calm. After Minister Ding issued the order, Bai Yunduo's huge spiritual power unilaterally monitored the 36 people targeted. Any movement or any order issued to the outside world would be monitored by Bai Yunduo. However, what Bai Yunduo couldn't help but admire was that this group of people were really old foxes. None of them were flustered by Minister Ding's threat. They still did what they usually did. It was as if they didn't take Minister Ding's warning to heart at all. Of course, there were also some people who gathered together to discuss because they were secretly afraid. Who did this? Minister Ding doesn't look like he's just trying to scare people. I'm afraid this matter is going to blow up. Don't let the fish in the moat get involved. I'm hoping that those greedy guys can come forward themselves now. It's difficult. Why did Qin Fangyang go missing? It's said that it's for the quota of the dragons to fight for the heritage. It's rare. Who do you think it is? It's difficult. Bai Yunduo heard no less than 20 conversations like this. There were 36 people, and it seemed like every one of them was very curious and scared. This also meant that none of the 36 people showed any flaws. In other words, there was no murder. Bai Yunduo knew that the suspect was among these people. However, with her experience and eyesight, she couldn't tell who was abnormal. This was very thought-provoking. The principal and a few higher-ups of Ancestral Dragon High School immediately held a meeting to discuss this matter after they returned. The principal was the first to fly into a rage. Qin Fangyang's matter must be done by someone from our school. It's not the fault of someone from our school. To erase all traces, such a brilliant method. How could it be easy? But why did he erase all traces of Qin Fangyang's appearance after the Spring Festival? It's terrifying to think about these things. The principal slammed the table. If this matter isn't resolved satisfactorily, everyone will be unlucky. No one can think of staying out of this matter. This matter definitely has something to do with Ancestral Dragon High School. You've controlled the dragons to fight for the heritage for so many years and seized so many benefits. Are you still not satisfied? How much longer do you want to control it? The principal's angry roar reverberated like thunder in the sealed meeting room. Qin Fangyang's actions are obviously hoping to get a spot for Zhuo Xiaoduo from Hidden Dragon High School. As for Zhuo Xiaoduo, even if Qin Fangyang didn't show up, I would definitely leave a spot for him. The continent's #1 genius. If even he can't be selected, what credibility does our school's dragons to fight for the heritage have? Just for this reason, you got rid of Qin Fangyang. How ridiculous. Are all of you brainless? The principal's words and actions were getting more and more agitated. Back then, when Zhuo Xiaoduo gave Ding Xiulan the King Bee Spirit Meat, the principal had lamented for a long time. It was a great loss for the Ancestral Dragon that such a righteous child didn't come to the Ancestral Dragon Martial School. At that time, the principal had even said to Ding Xiulan, if this child can maintain this momentum during the dragons to fight for the heritage and doesn't overage, you must remind me when the time comes. His words were still ringing in his ears, but this unforeseen event happened. While the principal was roaring, the people below were expressing their innocence. We didn't know about this at all. In the face of such ignorance, the principal was at his wit's end. Since you all say that you don't know, then let's leave it to fate. This is a matter supervised by the Heavenly King. There will definitely be a result. As for the consequences, everyone knows. One of the vice principals said, Principal, even if the Heavenly King is supervising this matter, shouldn't there be some reason? We didn't do anything, not to mention evidence. We don't even have a clue. How can we be killed for no reason? Is there such a logic in this world? That's right. You want to kill us without any evidence. Principal, what kind of society is this? As the saying goes, catch the thief with the stolen goods, catch the adulterer in bed. Even in the ancient times when civilization wasn't widespread, there was no such thing as killing without teaching. Moreover, we've worked hard all our lives. How can we be implicated and killed so casually? The principal heaved a long sigh. It's the same every time. I hope this time it's as optimistic as you think. I've said what I should say. I won't tell you to look out for yourselves. Anyway, I'm leaving it to fate. Do you all really think that what you've done is so flawless? The principal sneered and pointed at them one by one. Naive, childish. Chapter 1074. In the face of the headmaster's angry roar, the vice headmasters and the senior officials all looked innocent. We really didn't do it. It had nothing to do with us. Bai Yunduo, who had been monitoring and eavesdropping, showed a cold smile. Why are so many people still superstitious about the so-called evidence? Why are you so sure that you can't kill without evidence? Reason? What is the so-called reason in front of a person with a big fist? The bigger fist, the bigger the reason. Naive. I can't help it. I'm going to do it. Bai Yunduo muttered to herself. This matter was not as simple as patrolling the continent. There was a victim. This was not a case, this was a grudge. The reason why Bai Yunduo didn't do it was because of this. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. At this moment, suddenly, the space in front of her was distorted. Starlight shone, and the space shattered. Then, two figures appeared. Although their faces still retained the appearance when they transformed into the mortal world, Bai Yunduo could still recognize that it was her master and mistress who had arrived. Bai Yunduo hurriedly stood up respectfully. Hello, master and mistress. She was a little shocked that her master and mistress had come so quickly. It seemed that the two elders really attached great importance to this matter. Well, where's Nian? Her junior sister is in seclusion in her place. It's 530 meters from here, Bai Yunduo said. Well, you handled Nian Er's matter appropriately. Tell me about the situation here. It's like this. Bai Yunduo explained in detail. During the words, she naturally added some of her own understanding and emotional bias. No evidence. Ha ha, no evidence, indeed. We can't convict people. Zhuo Changlu laughed and said, however, although we can't convict people without evidence, we can still kill people. Wu Yuding said coldly, Teacher Qin's whereabouts are unknown because of Xiao Duo. As parents, if we don't give justice, how can we live up to Teacher Qin's kindness? No evidence? Then we'll have to create evidence and seek justice. Even if we can't create any evidence, it's not a big deal to kill a few people. Wu Yuding's words were laced with the aura of a devil who had no regard for human life. Even a heavenly king-stage powerhouse like Bai Yunduo could not help but keep quiet out of fear. She had almost forgotten that apart from being the wife of her master, the Sky Patrol Minister, she was also the only daughter of the demon ancestor Lei Changtian. Previously, when she was by the minister's side, she rarely revealed her demonic nature. Before she became the minister's wife, she was also known as the witch. However, she couldn't help but admire her master's wife's methods. This method was the best method to deal with those cunning old foxes, a supreme method. That kind of old thing relied on the fact that he did things flawlessly and was good at wiping out traces of relevant evidence. He wanted to find evidence that could be used against him. If he tried to reason with them and deal with them by law, he would only get himself into trouble. Since he could not figure out the way to deal with them by reason, then he could only use strength to reason with them. What else could it be? Those people had been at ease in the rear for too long and had forgotten that this was a world where martial arts were respected. The bigger the fist, the bigger the reason. Only when the fist was strong enough, the bigger the power. It was very helpless. Although civilized society had been around for many years, there were some things that could only be done without reason. If they were reasonable, it would be absolutely difficult to do certain things. So what Changlu said matter-of-factly, finding evidence is quite simple. Guessed, since that's the case, let's do it. Then he said, Ancestral Dragon Gao Wu, are you going or should I go? Wu Yuding pondered for a moment and said, I should go. I'm just a little woman and do things without any scruples. However, I'm afraid that if I really go, I'll kill everyone. Those involved will die, but it's inevitable that there will be accidental killings. If you go personally, there will be less killing. So Changlu pondered for a few breaths and said faintly, all right, pay attention. We must save Teacher Qin. Wu Yuding reminded, Teacher Qin has not only helped our family, but he also has feelings for us. This kindness must not be forgotten. Moreover, this involves whether Puppy's life is complete or not. Everything else can be discussed, but we must ensure Teacher Qin's safety. We must save Teacher Qin. Don't worry, I won't make a mistake on this. It's midnight now, the dawn is gone. Wait for the dawn to come. Didn't Hooer promise to give those people some time? Don't let our child slap his own mouth. Okay, a few hours passed by in the blink of an eye as they meditated. Early in the morning, 7:30 a.m. The weather was clear and there were no clouds for thousands of miles. The breeze was cool and the sun was bright. It was a beautiful day. How about this time? Just right. Okay, I'm going. Zhuo Changlu stood with his hands behind his back and his body slowly disappeared. Mistress, don't you want to rest for a while? Bai Yunduo was very excited. She had benefited a lot in these few hours. As a heavenly king-stage powerhouse, Bai Yunduo had almost reached the pinnacle of this world. If she wanted to make even the slightest bit of progress, she would need many years of grinding. But this night, as she meditated beside her master and mistress, that mysterious Taoist rhyme seemed to be within her reach, lingering around her for almost the entire night. Bai Yunduo felt that if she could not suppress her own realm, she would have broken through a small realm by now. She was extremely grateful. She knew that her master and mistress could have done those things last night, but they deliberately gave her 5 or 6 hours. In these 5 or 6 hours, the enlightenment, Taoist rhyme, and the path of the great Tao that she had obtained would be something that all the top masters in the world might not be able to come in contact with in their lifetime. This was a great favor. No need, Wu Yuding said. You should seize the time to comprehend. Bai Yunduo said, little junior brother. I don't know. Wu Yuting took a deep breath and said, last night, I used the heavenly heart questioning technique, and your master also used the 9 heavens heart technique. Both of us used 2 kinds of secret techniques and used ourselves as a medium to stimulate the senses of the divine soul to check whether this life is complete or not. We did not find that the divine soul is incomplete or that there is a legacy in life. She said softly, we can confirm that your little junior brother is still alive. This is beyond doubt. Bai Yunduo immediately jumped with joy. Really? Wu Yuting nodded her head and said coolly, really? As long as he is still alive, the rest is not important. But when we find Xiao Duo, we will naturally find the old bastard who kidnapped Xiao Duo to settle the score. I don't care what your master will do. I will definitely make the other party pay the price. Even if the flood which imprisoned Xiao Duo, I will not let him rest in peace. Perhaps I will find his descendants and end this karma. Although the voice was indifferent, the unscrupulous demonic nature was as clear as day. It was extremely fierce and murderous. Of course, Wu Yuting knew very well that the flood which could not have done this. Not only would the flood which not do this, but she would also protect Xiao Duo. Therefore, it must be someone else who did this. As for the others, in the whole world, who am I afraid of? Who can I not defeat? I will definitely find that old bastard and end this karma. Since Xiao Duo is safe and you two have come out of seclusion, there is no need to hide it from little Nyener, Bai Yunduo said happily. That girl. Wu Yuting's gloomy face instantly turned gentle. She said, that girl looks cold on the surface, but in fact, she has a lot on her mind. I will go and see that girl. Bai Yunduo said, I will go with you. You too? Won't my identity be exposed? Wu Yuting rolled her eyes and said, you'd better stay here. Bai Yunduo was a little reluctant. She said with an indescribable affection, I will go invisible and follow you. If you need someone to serve you, just call me. Serve me. I don't need you now. You just need to serve the little tiger well. Wu Yuting suddenly turned to look at Bai Yunduo's belly. She said, hey, I don't want to nag you, but how many years has it been? Your belly, why don't you fill it up a little? What's wrong? Is it because you can't or Huzi can't? Bai Yunduo froze on the spot when she heard this. Her pretty face suddenly became like a ripe persimmon, bashful to the extreme. Mistress, you. Hurry up. What about me? Wu Yuting said, you won't know if you don't give birth to one. It's fun. Bai Yunduo blushed. Her face was full of astonishment. Play? Yes. Wu Yuting said matter-of-factly, hurry up and give birth to one. It's okay if you don't want to raise it. Give it to me to play. I will raise it. Bai Yunduo's shyness flew out of the sky, leaving only astonishment and shock. Play? Raise? I'm not just casually talking to you. You and the little tiger should hurry up and put this on the agenda. Wu Yuting taught her seriously. When you have a child, you won't be like this anymore. You know that Huzi is not a scheming person. He just rushes and fights without any worries. But when you have a child, you will be worried. No matter what happens, you will be able to tighten the string in your brain. Bai Yunduo thought about it and blushed. But at our level, it's so hard to have a child. That's because you don't work hard. Wu Yuting glared at her and said, if you don't work hard when you're young, you'll be sad when you're old. Haven't you heard of this? Hurry up. Work hard. Before her voice died away, Wu Yuting had already left. Only Bai Yunduo was left in the room with a burning face. She muttered, this poem does it mean this? On the other side, it was already early in the morning. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. After the strange phenomenon of heaven and earth a few days ago, the whole of Shangjing City was full of birds and flowers. The ancestral dragon was a martial artist. The students saw that spring had already filled the world after just one night. Naturally, their eyes were filled with curiosity. Countless students were exclaiming in surprise. There were also many who were busy taking photos. They wanted to record this lively scene into their photos and preserve it forever. All the school's higher-ups and all the teaching staff were doing their jobs. In the combat field on the 4 sides, Earth-shattering shouts could be heard. However, at the next moment, everyone in the Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts campus felt as if the entire world had come to a standstill, with the exception of themselves. Just when everyone thought that they were the only ones experiencing it, but in fact everyone was experiencing it. A brilliant golden light suddenly appeared and enveloped the whole Ancestral Dragon High School. The golden light seemed to be omnipresent. It was as if the sky was slowly sinking and the whole earth was pressing down. A black-clothed figure, like a god wandering in the mortal world, slowly descended from the sky along with the golden light. There was still a huge black-clothed figure in the sky, but the figure's real body had already landed on the ground. The person had a square face. When his eyes opened and closed, there was a faint movement of stars. The sun and moon were shining. His black cloak fluttered slightly in the wind, and he wore a simple crown on his head. His whole body was like a gentle breeze, flowing like water as he walked forward smoothly. Wherever he passed, there was no trace and no sound. However, even if there were thousands of soldiers and horses in front of him, there were many tall buildings. When he walked past, they would naturally move aside and make a path for him. It allowed this person to pass smoothly. Everything was natural and logical. It was as if this was how it should be. All the teachers and students present looked on in shock. They looked at the majestic teaching building. There was clearly no gap in the sturdy building, but suddenly a wide path appeared. Flowers bloomed on both sides of the path, and the ground was as beautiful as a piece of brocade. However, the black-clothed figure did not seem to mind at all. He leisurely walked past. Then, after the black-clothed and crowned figure walked past, the buildings along the path quietly returned to their original state, as if nothing had happened. Or, what they saw just now was just an illusion. For a moment, everyone who witnessed this scene was so shocked that they were suffocating, unable to control themselves. A feeling of respect and reverence that came from the bottom of their hearts involuntarily arose. With his arrival, this person seemed to have brought light to the world, but also seemed to have turned the world into complete darkness. It was not until a few minutes after the black-clothed figure walked past that a teacher who was walking towards him suddenly woke up from his daze. Then, his expression became abnormally emotional. Without saying anything, he felt his knees with a plop, his face full of hot tears. After a long while, he was so emotional that he could not speak. "It's the minister, it's the minister, it's the minister, the sovereign descending ancestral dragon is mighty. Oh my God." Actually, he was not the only one who reacted. Many teachers of the older generation, the moment they came back to their senses, tears streamed down their faces. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed sincerely. The Sky Surveyor throne. It was actually the legend of the astral souls, the sovereign descending ancestral dragon. In an instant, everyone remembered the portrait that was hung in the school auditorium. It was a portrait of a person's back. He was dressed in black and seemed to cover the sky and earth. He wore a crown and seemed to hold up the universe. That boundless majesty, that boundless aura. Looking at the huge, black-clothed and crowned figure that was slowly dissipating in the sky, everyone cheered crazily and kowtowed. The minister is here." Without exception, all the students present knelt on the ground. Everyone's faces were full of tears, and they were indescribably excited. They did not know why, but they just wanted to cry. They did not care about their dignity and cried bitterly. For so many years, it was this black-clothed figure who had supported the continuation of the human race's life in the astral souls. The Sky Surveyor throne was a solid line of defense for the human race in the astral souls. This person was like a loyal guardian of the astral souls. With his own strength, he held up the sky for the human race in the astral souls. Everyone knew that without the Sky Surveyor throne, the astral souls would have fallen long ago. Countless heroes of the older generation had grown up under the protection of the Sky Surveyor throne. Countless cultivation resources were sent back from scratch by the Sky Surveyor throne. He used all means to deal with the enemy. He worked tirelessly alone to resist the strong enemies from all sides. He did many things for the human race and the astral souls. It could even be said that after the return of the Umno Alliance, until the Sky Surveyor throne grew, the human race and the astral souls had a mainstay. Only then did they have a true backbone. As long as the minister is still around, the astral souls will never fall. This was the consensus of everyone. Now, this person who had protected the continent for so many years had come here to the martial arts of the ancestral dragon. The minister has come to the ancestral dragon. This is the glory of the ancestral dragon. Some students were so excited that their faces and necks were red as they shouted. And this sentence was exactly what everyone was thinking. No one objected. Yes, the Sky Surveyor throne had come to the martial arts of the ancestral dragon. This was the glory of the martial arts of the ancestral dragon, an unprecedented glory. A wave of cheers shook the sky like a tsunami. In the office building, the principal had already brought a few vice principals who could quickly rush over. They also knelt on the ground devoutly. They were full of anticipation and excitement as they quietly waited for the arrival of the god. Although the so-called etiquette of kneeling for status had long been abolished, in the face of such a human god, no one was unwilling to kneel. They all knelt sincerely from the bottom of their hearts. There was no coercion. It was just that they had to kowtow to the benefactor of the entire continent in front of them to express their gratitude. In front of them, the black-robed figure came as naturally as before. Although no one could see his face clearly, they still felt that the galaxy was shining brightly and the sun and moon were shining brightly. Greetings to the minister. Everyone kowtowed and paid their respects at the same time. Zhuo Changlu said lightly, "Everyone, get up. Call all the higher-ups of the martial arts of the ancestral dragon here. I have something that I need everyone's help with." After he finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared. His voice was indifferent. The principal bounced up from the ground like a spring and shouted loudly. He was so excited that his face was red. "Hurry up! Call all the higher-ups of the ancestral dragon here. No one is allowed to be absent. The minister is going to give us a lecture personally. Hurry, hurry, hurry. The big conference room. Go. You guys go and clean it up. Don't let any dust. Make sure it's clean." The principal pointed at the vice principals. "Go quickly." The vice principals flew out in a whoosh. They had to clean it up. They didn't feel at ease leaving it to the students. They had to clean it up personally. Even if it was just a little bit of dust, it was still a great disrespect to the Sky Surveyor throne. It was also something that would make them feel uneasy for the rest of their lives. When the minister came, there was still dust. Even though the minister may not care about such minor details, but they wouldn't care about it. Because to them, this was blasphemy. It was even blasphemy against their life's beliefs in the palace. A guard flew straight in at his top speed. He completely ignored the exclamations and questions along the way and rushed straight to the emperor's bedroom. "Your Majesty, Your Majesty, there's great news. The Sky Surveyor throne has appeared in the martial arts of the ancestral dragon." The guard commander, who was about to get angry, immediately shut his mouth. His face instantly turned red and his eyes shone brightly. Inside, the emperor was eating breakfast when he heard this. He jumped up and rushed out barefooted. "Where's the minister? Hurry, 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 change clothes." All the major departments and aristocratic families fell into a state of chaos. The minister has appeared in the martial arts of the ancestral dragon. The people who were outside desperately brought the news back. They didn't dare to shout on the way back. They suppressed their excitement and only shouted when they reached the door. This news caused everyone to be immersed in an almost explosive state of excitement, and it quickly spread out. Countless family heads, countless high-ranking officials and nobles that from all directions of Shanjing, they all rushed to the martial arts of the ancestral dragon. In everyone's eyes, there was a genuine look of pilgrimage. Be careful, don't disturb the people. Don't make the minister unhappy. Faster, faster, I want to go. Even if it's just kowtowing to the minister from afar, it's worth it to catch a glimpse of him. The minister. Everyone was very excited. They even felt a long-lost sense of happiness. It was as if their bodies were being electrified. They were so excited that their bodies trembled. Only the martial arts department. Department head Ding had just come to work when he saw his personal guard suddenly appear out of thin air and rush in front of him like a ghost. He was so excited that he rushed over. Department head, there's a big matter. What big? Department head Ding was shocked. It's the Sky Surveyor throne. The minister is here. The minister has already arrived in the martial arts of the ancestral dragon. Department head, let's go. The 8 shadow guards were so excited that their pupils dilated. Then, they saw their own department head Ding. His eyeballs suddenly bulged out, full of disbelief. He gagged and almost fainted. The minister is here. He's really here. This so fast, it seems that the matter is much more serious than I expected. The shadow guard were inexplicably surprised and even dissatisfied. What's going on? What's with your reaction? Why you look unhappy? What do you want? The minister has arrived. Why do you look so frightened? What are you doing? Although I'm your shadow guard, but if you disrespect the minister, I'll still cut you down. Quick! Department head Ding bounced up and flew out of the window. He disappeared like a stream of light. Go to the ancestral dragon. Something big is going to happen. Huh? The shadow guards widened their eyes and were at a loss for a moment. They couldn't catch up with him at the first moment. 10 minutes past 8 in the morning. All the higher-ups of the Ancestral Dragon Martial Arts High School were sitting upright in the big conference room. The principal, vice principal, dean, and even the heads of the various grades shamelessly claimed that they were the higher-ups and squeezed their way in, begging their grandparents for help. This might be the only time in their lives that they could see the minister's face. I'm a higher-up. I'm a higher-up. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.